Hello, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning. Okay, this room is very full, and we love to see it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 2023 National Partnership for Student Success Summit. We're going to go woo-woo. We are thrilled to be in community with you. Those of you who are here, we've got a very full room at the Department of Education. We also have scores of folks who are also joining us on live via our live stream. Welcome to all of you. My name is Mecca Smith, and I have had the privilege of supporting NPSS since its inception last July. And I can tell you that having a chance to peek behind the curtain, I can confirm there is a relentless urgency to make sure that we are providing the research-based, locally driven supports to benefit all of our students around the country. Today, we are here to recognize the work of our key partners, including our newly signed on institutions of higher education. We're also going to learn about promising practices from cross-sector collaboration between our states, our districts, our youth development organizations, and our higher ed institutions. Because when these entities work together, we don't just make magic, we get results. And that's what we're here to celebrate. I'm thrilled to welcome 3 people to the stage who represent the heart of the NPSS, the power of partnership and impact. They will each provide brief remarks and will kick off our event today. Please give a warm welcome to U.S. Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona, AmeriCorps CEO Michael D. Smith, and Howard University student Tyler Gwendolyn Brown. Tyler, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mecca. I'm so excited to be here today to help kick off the National Partnership for Student Success Summit. As she said, my name is Tyler Brown, and I'm a student at Howard University, currently studying strategic and legal communications. As a junior at Howard, I am proud that in response to Secretary Cardona's call to action and in collaboration with the National Partnership for Student Success, Howard University was a part of the original cohort of schools and universities committed to dedicating more of its federal work-study funds to increasing the number of students, like me, that are supporting students and tutors in high-impact roles. I attribute my passion to this work to all the great teachers and mentors that I've had throughout the years, my family, and my mom, and my uncle, 2 of the most passionate, hardworking, and dedicated teachers that I know. They have instilled a deep sense of pride and importance in my education because above all else, knowledge is power. I've had the opportunity since coming to DC to work here through the Federal Work Study at Howard University School of Early Education, a nationally accredited early childhood educational program that's run by Howard University School of Education. Through the work study, I've had the privilege of being able to work alongside some very passionate and hardworking teachers and aiding them in everyday tasks and being able to provide extra support for the students that need it. I'm also an AmeriCorps alumni. Thank you. And served as an AmeriCorps member in my home city of Miami, Florida, through a summer internship at Breakthrough Miami. Now, if you were to tell me that almost 3 years ago, I would be having the honor of introducing AmeriCorps CEO Michael Smith, I would not believe you, but here I am today. Michael is AmeriCorps' 8th CEO, having been nominated by President Joe Biden and confirmed by the US Senate in 2021. Prior to leading AmeriCorps, he served as the executive director of the My Brother's Keeper Alliance and the Youth Opportunity Programs at the Obama Foundation. He also held the title of Special Assistant to the President and Senior Director of Cabinet Affairs at the Obama administration, where the My Brother's Keeper initiative was housed. Previously, he served as the Director of Social Innovation Fund for AmeriCorps and Senior Vice President for the Social Innovation Case at the Case Foundation. Above all else, he is a proud alumni Hall of Fame for the Boys and Girls Club of America, one of the highest honors bestowed by the organization. So please help me welcome AmeriCorps CEO Michael Smith.
Good morning, everybody. Let's bring some energy in this room. When I say fired up, you say ready to serve. Fired up? Ready to serve. I didn't believe it. Fired up? Ready to serve. I believe it a little better. We'll try it again this afternoon. Tyler, wherever you went, thank you for that kind introduction, for your AmeriCorps service through Breakthrough Miami, and for your continued dedication to helping our youngest learners during your time at Howard. HU. There are a couple HU folks in there. That's what AmeriCorps looks like, and I am so incredibly proud. You know, you think about the work that AmeriCorps members do during their year of service, but what I'm so excited about the 1.3 million AmeriCorps members, how they take that year of service and turn it into a lifetime of service. I can't wait to introduce you 10 years from now. So thank you for your work. You know, we often say it takes a village to raise a child, and this room and the folks that are joining with us online today are not just part of that village. Your leadership makes the village possible. I don't have to tell this room that the COVID-19 pandemic pulled back the curtain on the challenges that are facing our kids, our teachers, and our schools. And despite the best efforts of many of you who are sitting in this room, kids were struggling to get to class. We were struggling to get to work and to stay in class. Learning gaps persisted across schools, and students, particularly in underserved communities, lacked the wraparound supports and individual attention that they deserved. So yes, the pandemic brought these challenges into the light, but it also raised the stakes and exacerbated the conditions that kept our kids from learning to their full potential. And that's why the president asked us to meet this historic challenge with a historic and bold solution. Recruit an additional 250,000 people by 2025. That was 2 years ago. No small task. But I am proud to say that the National Partnership for Student Success is answering that call. A new report released by Johns Hopkins showed that an estimated 187,000 additional adults served K-12 students during that last school year. So we're at the Department of Education. I know you all can do math. We had a goal of 250,000, and today we can say there are 187,000, and we're so close to that goal. These community leaders are tutoring students and providing an extra set of eyes in the classroom. They're supporting mentorship programs that improve student attendance and graduation rates. They're developing after-school and summer programs with community partners. They're advising students on applying for financial aid for college. And, you know, when I think of a lot of our folks, especially our AmeriCorps seniors that are working in the classrooms, we often, hey, AmeriCorps seniors, you know, I not only think about the work they do for our students, but how they are a lifeline for our teachers. And that just makes me so proud to be a part of that work. And they deserve all of our gratitude and support. So let's give all of these new tutors, mentors, and coaches a big round of applause. AmeriCorps is celebrating our 30th anniversary. Just a few of us. I've got the AmeriCorps Amen corner in here. You know, just a few of us were with President Clinton last week in Little Rock, so sorry you're having to hear me talk again. But since day one, education has been at the heart of everything that we do at AmeriCorps. It is our largest body of work. Today, about 50,000 AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps senior volunteers serve in nearly 10,000 K-12 schools across the country. And in addition to Tyler, we're going to hear from a few more of these esteemed alumni shortly. Over the last 3 decades, we've learned a great deal from our members, our volunteers, and our partners, particularly around the cost of recruiting, training, and retaining volunteers. That doesn't just happen by accident. That is hard work that someone has to pay for and someone has to be responsible for. That's why we were proud to launch the AmeriCorps Volunteer Generation Fund, or we call it VGF, which can help alleviate some of those burdens. VGF grants are given to community organizations so that they can have the funding they need to invest in volunteer management and that they can make a bigger impact. Over the last year, AmeriCorps has awarded more than $20 million to 21 organizations. Some are here today, Partners for Rural Impact. They're here. Good to have you here. Reading Partners, AARP Foundation from my home state, the Massachusetts Commission on Volunteering Service, and the New Jersey Commission on Volunteering and Service. This funding is going to support more than 40,000 volunteers in NPSS-aligned roles. I was thinking about meeting with President Clinton last week at that 30th anniversary of AmeriCorps, and a quote that he shared during the launch of AmeriCorps, he said, "Service is a spark to rekindle the spirit of democracy in an age of uncertainty. When it is all said and done, it comes down to three simple questions: what is right, what is wrong, and what are we going to do about it?" So I want to thank you all for stepping up and for choosing to do something about it. The organizations who recruit volunteers, our college and university partners who get their students involved in the community, and of course, our NPSS partners at Johns Hopkins and the Department of Education. It is now my honor to introduce my partner in this work, the Honorable Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona. Dr. Cardona brings decades of experience as a teacher, which I think is his proudest role, a principal, a district administrator, and a state leader to his role as Secretary of Education. He is a firm believer that being an educator isn't only a job, it's an extension of your life's purpose. Secretary Cardona's focus throughout his career on raising the bar for equity and excellence for all learners guides his leadership of the Department of Education in service of our nation's 65 million students and families. So please join me in welcoming my friend and partner, the 12th Secretary of the United States Department of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona.
All right, thank you very much for the introduction, Michael, but more importantly for that partnership, the energy you bring to this important work that we have been asked to collaborate together on. And I feel like our agency is better and our country is better because of the great work you do and the partnership that we have. AmeriCorps has been critical in this work. We're grateful for the collaboration. And let's give another round of applause to Tyler Gwendolyn Brown. You represent what's good in our country and the hope that we have. We were in the back room there a little while ago, and she said, "I think you met my mom." I went to Miami, and when you think of Miami, right, I don't have to tell you, right? You're thinking about Miami. Her mother works at, she leads a school that has a wonderful CTE program. And I was just amazed at how wonderful they have connections to careers in that school. One of those schools where I visited, and I said, "We got to blow this up. We got to elevate what they're doing here." So it's no surprise to me that I get an opportunity to meet you, and yours is wonderful. So congratulations to you, to your mother, your whole family. You're doing great things. It's students like you who are making the National Partnership for Student Success a success. So thank you. I also want to give a shout out, and I see some folks, a lot of friends in the audience. In particular, I want to shout out Ray Hart, who leads the Council of Great City Schools, the largest superintendents, largest districts in the country. Thank you for your partnership and the work that you're doing to help move this work along. Deputy Secretary Cindy Marten's here. You'll be hearing from her later. Such a great advocate, former superintendent in San Diego, but man, she lives this, and we're so thankful to have her leading this work at the Department of Education with so many others. I see Sheetal here, I know Joaquin is here. I also want to give a shout out to Secretary John King, Dr. John King right there. He's secretary to me. I know you're gonna participate later, and I really appreciate your presence here today and your partnership. Tyler gives me hope, but when I have chancellors across the country that are just understanding what needs to happen and doing the work, man, I really feel optimistic about where we're going to go as a country. So thank you for being here and everything you're doing. Today, we honor the connections that have been built through the National Partnership, the big goals that have been advanced, and the students who've been championed. We honor the way NPSS is providing our students with support by helping districts, youth-serving organizations, colleges, and states. Those of you who are engaged in this work are tutors, your mentors, your post-secondary transition coaches, your wraparound coordinators, your success coaches. You're supported by the best in the business. including AmeriCorps and the Everyone Graduates Center at Johns Hopkins University. And you're changing the game for young people. As Michael noted, in just 1 year, thanks to the hard work of this group of leaders across the country, there are 187,000 people in NPSS roles. That's amazing. You know, one thing we learned, or was reinforced during the pandemic, is that it takes a village. It takes a village to raise a child, right? And early on, we found out that what students needed were warm meals. What they needed was a safe and secure environment. What they needed was broadband access. What they needed was a device. So the village came together to do that. Now they need more than that. They need to recover, and they need mentors, and they need support people. They need people in their corner. And there's so many people doing that work. Many more of you are doing this in community-based settings too. So for example, take Park High School and Earl STEM Academy in Chicago, where AmeriCorps supports young people as tutors, as success coaches, post-secondary transition coaches. We're already seeing results in these schools and in other places. And so we're staying focused. We're going to stay focused on this. It's not just that our students face challenges like never before, although they do. We're still picking up the pieces from a global pandemic. Pieces like learning loss, educator and staff shortages, and declines in mental health. I don't have to tell you, 1 in 3 high school girls over the last 3 years has considered suicide. That mental health need is great. We're going to keep focusing on that, but today we're going to reframe that narrative. It's not that our students' needs are too urgent. It's that their dreams, their future, and this moment are too urgent. We can accelerate learning for every student. We know how to do it. High-quality tutoring and mentoring work. And right now we have the tools and resources to make these programs a reality. So let's continue to increase partnerships, engagement, and get more adults in NPSS role. We've outlined how schools can use federal resources from the American Rescue Plan, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, Title I, and so much more to move this work forward. We made that technical assistance clear. We're speaking in the language of school superintendents, of college presidents, of state leaders. In fact, we estimate districts will invest over half of the American Rescue Plan ESSER funds in academic recovery and staffing efforts. Districts are hiring tutors. They're training current staff. They're bringing wraparound service support coordinators and so much more. I've seen that on the road. I visited 43 states in the last 2.5 years, and I've seen how those dollars are being used to help children. We've also clarified how federal work-study funds can support college students as tutors in our schools. What better person to tell a 6th, 7th, 8th grader or a high schooler that they can make it to college than a student that looks like them that's succeeding in college? Right? It's our job to make sure we put the Tylers in the classrooms of our middle schools and our high schools. I'm thrilled that nearly 50 colleges and universities and counting have answered the call to get more college students into roles as tutors and mentors. Our college students are our greatest resource. We're underutilizing them. Through NPSS, we're getting them in the mix, and I'm proud of that. We have colleges that do it really well. That include the State University of New York, and I'm honored to have Chancellor King, who's no stranger to this building or to this work, joining us today, and I look forward to connecting later. I got to show you what I did to the office. Yeah. No, really, you're going into that role and you understand what it takes to do it systemically, and that's why you're here, because you're going to lift up not only what others can do, but what you're doing. So thank you. I'm also grateful to the Everyone Graduate Center at Johns Hopkins University, which launched the NPSS Support Hub. There you can learn from best-in-class organizations like Accelerate, the National Student Support Accelerator, Mentor. Yeah, you could clap. Yeah, if you're part of it, come on. You came all the way here. When you hear it, you clap. The City Year, the National College. Yes, City Year's in the house. And the National College Attainment Network, and communities in schools. Yes. You know, when I talk about the village, that's what I'm talking about. That's the village. That's the village, and we have to foster intentional collaboration to learn from one another and make that the norm. For too long in education, we've had silos. Everybody working really hard, but just not talking to one another. We got to up the ante here now, folks. To go from 187 to 250 and beyond, we got to raise the bar there. We got to make sure that we're providing technical assistance, that we're taking good and turning it into great. We're taking some cool program and make it sustainable so that it lasts much longer than any of us in our current positions. You follow me? That's the leadership challenge we have today. That's the next level of work, to make this part of the DNA of our districts and our states and our colleges. This is what we do now. This is not a fancy program. This is what we do now. That intentional collaboration. We're all in this together. Take advantage of all the hub and these amazing partners and what they have to offer. Request technical assistance. Put us to work. Take a look at P12 higher education and youth development toolkits. Put those to work. Revise it for us. Tell us what works, what doesn't work. Make sure that it gets in the hand. There's nothing worse than having a wonderful toolkit that doesn't have any fingerprints on it because no one's picking it up. We don't write these things for DC. We want it to be used in the field. Explore a playbook for high impact tutoring. Because let me tell you, as a former principal, as a fourth grade teacher, not all tutoring programs are built the same. What does high quality tutoring look like? Right? Because what ends up happening, you put something in that's not really high quality, and then you say, well, the kid's not really growing, so tutoring doesn't work. No, you didn't do it right. Look at the toolkits. Look at what we have to offer. These resources are high quality. They're free. They're free. And most importantly, they're going to make a difference for the children we serve. Together, we're over 160 supporting champion organizations. That's amazing. That's amazing. And the good news is, thanks to the work with NPSS, we're rowing in the same direction. How often have you had experiences where, you know, everyone's working really hard, but like I said before, they're not talking to one another? Or the school system is disconnected from the great things that are happening in the community? Or the college is aiming over here while the K-12 system is over here and they're not talking to each other? Partnership is in the name for a reason. Look, I'm confident that with this strong, determined coalition and with unprecedented resources to back us up, we can fast track student learning and student success. That means not just returning to where we were before the pandemic. That's a low bar. That's not our goal. We need to close achievement and opportunity gaps that have been pervasive in our country and that have been normalized in our country. That's our goal. That also means focusing on what we know works. Mentoring and tutoring, along with after school and summer learning. A lot of the learning that takes place is in between the 42-minute classes, right? It's after the 6-hour school day, that connection that student has to somebody, maybe that can relate to them a little bit differently. Maybe someone that has higher expectations or a belief system in that kid that kid doesn't even have. That's what we're doing. That's what we're celebrating today. 187,000 people have signed up to look a kid in the face and say, I believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself. And your story of challenge is not going to define you. As a matter of fact, it's going to make you stronger. It's what makes you special. That's amazing. The conversations that have happened since NPSS has started. The beliefs children now have in themselves as a result of this work. Look, when I think about the why of our work, I think about students like Tyler talking to a high school student who maybe doubts himself. Say, no, you could do this too. She's dominating at Howard. You can dominate too. That's what's happening across the country. Let's never lose sight of that. While it's difficult sometimes to take systems and make them work together, right? Or to have an authentic invitation in the room where decisions are made. What you're doing, that fight, is ensuring that students like Tyler can make a connection with a student that just needs to be tapped on the shoulder. And sometimes it's a mentor that does it. Sometimes it's a tutor that does it. That's what we're doing here. I know many in this room support our Engage Every Student initiative that expands access to quality learning opportunities beyond the school day. That's another program that, if you don't know about it, Google it. Or see Sheethel on the way out. Sheethel will tell you everything about it. Look, as a school principal, I would tell you, there were students that left school whose parents can afford to do the soccer thing, could do all these different programs. And then there were students that just relied on what our schools offered. And I was one of those kids. I'm a product of whatever the public school can offer. So when we talk about Engage Every Student and investing in out-of-school time activities, weekend activities or summer activities, that's sometimes what sparks a curiosity in students to believe in themselves as learners, as future college students, as future secretaries. I want to thank you for all you do to support students' well-being alongside their academic growth. I want to thank you for seeing the potential in each and every young person in this country. I want to thank you for raising the bar, and I want to thank you for being here and for the partnership that you have, the work that you're doing to make sure that every child in this country has someone they can look to, whether it be a mentor, a tutor, somebody in an after-school program. What you're doing and in your participation in this is what we want to see happen for the future of education. This has to be the rule, not the exception. And with MPSS, we've got a great start. Let's keep fighting together. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Secretary Cardona. All right, so we're not going to quiz you, but in a space full of educators and youth-serving organizations, we do have to be really clear on our definitions. The National Partnership for Student Success is a public-private partnership, as you've heard earlier, led by the U.S. Department of Education, AmeriCorps, and the Everyone Graduates Center at Johns Hopkins University. And the NPSS helps states, districts, schools, local communities, youth development organizations, colleges and universities, and others who support youth to partner and implement, expand, and improve programs that are supporting student success through 5 evidence-based roles. These are tutors, mentors, student success coaches, post-secondary transition coaches, and wraparound or integrated student support coordinators. That's a mouthful. So collectively, we tend to refer to these roles as people-powered supports. While there's still work left to be done to support all students, we're just really thrilled by the progress that we've already made toward our goal set by the president of ensuring that 250,000 more caring people are directly connecting with and supporting our students. And I just want to give a quick heads up. This is the audience participation portion of the program. So I really want to encourage you to get a little loose in the name of student success. We're going to do a little bit of celebration for the estimated 187,000 people who took up these roles this past year. And we're going to celebrate those who continue to step up and support young people in these roles. And this is how we're going to do it. Now, more than 1/3 of all schools surveyed this spring through a RAND Corporation survey reported increasing the number of adults providing NPSS student supports during the 22-23 school year when compared to the previous school year. Awesome, we love to hear it. 87% of principals reported providing at least one NPSS support during the 22-23 school year. And 53% of principals reported providing high-intensity tutoring, including in 62% of schools where the majority of students qualify for free or reduced lunch. And we're really excited by this progress. So in order to celebrate this, we're going to get a little bit deeper, and I'm going to start calling out some groups. You might want to put your phones down if you've got this. If you're a part of this group that you hear, you're going to need to get on your feet, and I'm going to give you one other task. If you're not a part of the group, your one job is just to cheer and celebrate them and hype them up and tell them how awesome they are. I'm a former cheerleader, and so I'm going to really, really insist that we do this well. I have very high expectations for this group. Okay, this only works with robust participation. All right, if you're a part of this first group, just stand and take a bow. It could be a curtsy, a nod of the head, whatever you want to do, but you deserve it. If you work for an NPSS Hub Technical Assistance Leader at Accelerate, City Year, Communities in Schools, Mentor, National College Attainment Network, or the National Student Support Accelerator, please stand and remain standing. Let's give them a hand. Take a bow. Please remain standing. So they have followed my directions. They stood, but I didn't see any bowing, so I'm gonna call you out lovingly. Okay, thank you. Some of them are doing it in front of me. And I'm gonna continue with the high expectations for this next group, and something tells me they're gonna be into fist pumping. So get on your feet and get your fists in the air if you are from a college or university that is part of the NPSS Higher Education Coalition. There are 49 campuses from across the country, many of whom that are here today, and they have set goals to place more college students in high impact roles supporting pre-12 youth. Let's hear it for them. Let's get those fists going. Yes. All right, yes, yes. Okay, thank you. Excellent progress. Please stay standing. If you are an NPSS supporting champion, collaborating at the national, state, or local level, please stand and let's raise the roof for student success. Come on, you can do it. All right. Okay, this is encouraging. Stay standing, love it. I'm feeling the energy rise. Now, over 165 organizations and counting have joined the NPSS as supporting champions and committed to collaborating with each other and with others in their communities to bring more high-impact student supports to young people. If you work for a school district, a school or a district that has expanded programming in one of our key roles, please stand and give someone near you a fist or an elbow bump. Let's cheer for them. All right. Yes. Thank you. If you're an AmeriCorps alum, please stand and give a Queen's wave. We'd love to see it. And keep standing. And if in any way you have contributed to helping more young people have direct connections to a tutor, a mentor, a success coach, a post-secondary transition coach, or an integrated student support coordinator, please stand and give yourselves a silent applause. All right. You can sit. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it. You did a great job. So it's really great to be in a room today full of people so committed to supporting young people to succeed and thrive. That was really fun. I hope you had fun. Let me just go over a little bit more about what you can expect today. So you can expect to hear from leaders and practitioners from school districts, from institutes of higher education, nonprofit youth-serving organizations, intermediaries, state and federal agencies, and AmeriCorps alum, who are all working to bring more evidence-based and high-impact supports to young people in their communities. Following the main stage panel this morning, you're going to hear more about the technical assistance offered by the National Partnership for Student Success Hub at the Johns Hopkins Everyone Graduates Center. You're going to have an opportunity to connect with your peers over lunch, and you're going to hear from practitioners implementing high-impact student support programs at the state and the local level. I encourage you to ask questions, connect with someone you don't know, and make sure that you are thinking critically about how you can continue to deepen your involvement in this work today. With that, I'm happy to welcome AmeriCorps CEO Michael D. Smith back to the stage, along with AmeriCorps alums Jameer Jones and Alexis Walls for a fireside chat. Over to you.
Fired up? Good morning again, everybody. It's good to be back with some of our incredible AmeriCorps. No, you can't hear me? Turn on the mic. It is wonderful to be back with some of our AmeriCorps alums to just give you a little bit more insight of what this work looks like on the ground. You know, as I was looking around, I was seeing some of the people that were here at the beginning stages, and I was thinking about some of those early conversations we were having before it was even a National Partnership for Student Success. And I just wanted to give some love. I know you're going to hear from Dr. Cindy Marten later. Joaquin Tamayo, my friend and colleague from the Obama administration, who was here in the early days. Mo, I always forget your last two names, Tracy Mooney. What's up, Mo? From the White House. Bob Balfance, I don't know if Bob is here. I didn't see your face from Hopkins. Ann Mora Connolly from City Year, and Tara Wallen from our team. And those were the people when we weren't quite sure. You know, partnership is never easy. Those were the ones who were pushing to make sure this happened. And so I just wanted to give some love to those co-conspirators who made this possible. So we are going to have a conversation with Miss Alexis Walls, who is the director of the executive office at Reading Partners and is a two-term Reading Partners AmeriCorps alum from the great city of New York. We are also going to talk to Jameer Jones, who is an employment specialist at the Academy of Hope Public Charter School. He is an AmeriCorps alum, did Youth Build Philly in 2015. My nephew's a Youth Build graduate, changed his life. So glad that you were there. Also a College Possible, Milwaukee alum from 2017. He liked it so nice, he did it twice. And he's been an alumni leader, both in Philly and with the Service Year Alliance. So that's who we're going to talk to this morning. So Alexis, let's go ahead and kick it off with you. So we like to talk about evidence, and evidence shows that academic success really hinges on having strong, supportive relationships between students and adults. And all young people need a trusted adult. Sometimes that's not their parent who cares. I know for me, the Boys and Girls Club made all the difference and provided me with a team of people that my mother wouldn't have had otherwise. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how AmeriCorps members focus on improving student well-being and what you see as the impact on this increased focus of on the whole child. Alexis.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I could speak for both Reading Partners, and I'm sure many folks in this space is, relationships, and particularly ones facilitated by our AmeriCorps members, are the cornerstone of our approach. And if we're not centering the whole student and their full selves and all the power within partnership and community and focusing on that with those relationships, I think it's of a disservice to our students. I look at AmeriCorps members, both, folks that are actively servicing alums who are now in staff positions with our organizations, as community connectors. They're folks that are focused on, I think there's a lot of pressure associated with, I think, especially in the academic space, you're focused on regaining months of lost learning, academic gains, benchmarks, all the different things that, are breathing down our necks to do best in best service of our students. And I think what can often get lost in the urgency and pressure of that is taking the time to slow down and prioritize relationship, prioritize connection, prioritize the power of all those within doing that with community, not for them, not to them. And I think that's the AmeriCorps members play a key role in that, because they're the folks that are coming in and they're saying, I hear all the noise from the school, from the organization, from home, all the pressures that's coming from every different direction, and saying, how can I prioritize the connection? How can I prioritize the relationship, both that AmeriCorps members have directly with the student? Yes, that's a part of it, but I look at our core members as facilitators for that with other folks. They're prioritizing, initiating those relationships from student to tutor, from student to core member, from strengthening student to other school support staff. I think our core members play a really critical role I guess, is what I would say in facilitating all those different relationships from all the different angles.
That's really helpful. So what I hear you saying, it's about more than reading and math. You know, we heard the secretary talk about 1 in 3 teenage girls has considered suicide. I think I heard a statistic recently that said 1 in 6 high school students have an active suicide plan right now. We know the Surgeon General has talked about this loneliness epidemic that we have right now. So what is your take on how these supports are helping address those crises that we're facing?
I think it's the, the social emotional element that's we're beginning to see, at Reading Partners, it's a priority integrated into all of our programming and as with other orgs. And I think the focusing on the social emotional element it's directly tackling that. It is taking the time to slow down and say, I'm focused on you as a whole being, not just your academic success, because we believe that your academic success, it's directly tied to your well-being. And it's, we could have data and academic gains off the charts that are showing one thing, but if it's not telling the whole story of the whole student and their whole being, we miss the mark on that. So I think, through AmeriCorps, through tutors, through mentorship, you have this group of folks that are in service of our students, but really focused on the whole student and the social emotional piece of it. So it is someone I'm not focused on necessarily say how your grades are shaking out or this, that, or the third. How are you? How am I both through indirectly just by being a person who's dedicated to showing up and sharing space with you every week. But on top of that as well, how can we integrate very specific and intentional, whether that's through lessons, whether that's through programming, you name it, different forms of outreach to really address those really harsh statistics that our students are facing, but in a way that's centered and really leaning into the power of community, because I do believe in the beauty of that and the healing power that's within that. And then I think when you have students that are held up in community, it makes grappling with suicide rates and ideation and things like that easier. It makes students that are feeling isolated due to the pandemic or things that were unveiled that during the pandemic, but that we were facing prior to. I think that one-on-one support really both directly and indirectly addresses all those, both in we could pull the data in really intentional ways of here's how we tackled this out in the third, but I think the higher level is you have, when I'm sitting, if I think about my service, or even as an alum who still interacts with students to this day, I'm sitting down and the child is my focus in this moment. And what the child needs from me is what the priority is that day. Hopefully we're gonna get to, in my context, say with Reading Partners, I'm hoping we're getting to a lesson. I'm hoping that we're making some progress with literacy, yes, but equal of the priority for me is that how are you today? What do you need from me today? And what can I consistently show up? And whether that's through direct support or just holding space for our students as well.
Beautifully said. How are you today? What do you need? We were with Governor Moore last week at the launch of his new service year initiative in Maryland. And we were sitting next to the crowds of the new members. And the governor opened up by saying, you all are beautiful. And I watched these 18, 19, 20-year-olds blush, smile, sit up a little straighter, just thinking how important that is, that our children's souls need to be fed. So thank you for making that point. Jameer, let's go over to you. So you've worked with learners at all stages. You're working with adult learners now, you've worked with kids that are younger. And I wonder, when you think about preparing individuals for success after school, how do those needs differ or compare at the different stages in life?
Yeah, so can you hear me? So I would say young kids, pretty much, they'll be back the next year, or, if they're not back, they'll see AmeriCorps. They'll know about this is something I can do when I get older. Middle schoolers, early high school students, they still some time to grow up. They'll come back, or they'll have their parents kind of support them throughout their high school experience. When you get to what I specialize in is the young adults and the adult learners or students, they don't know what to do. We all were there. We were, high school graduates. And I think just a simple introduction of this is something that you can do when you finish here is always very helpful, along with alumni, as staff, as, people you may know, friends, families. AmeriCorps is a really big network. I've learned throughout my years. So running into people at work, running into people, downtown, is always a really, 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 really good connection. So bringing those people to a high school or a college or just somewhere in general, to say something like, hey, this is what I've done. This is what I did after I graduated high school. This is what I did after I finished Job Corps. This is what I did after I finished college. And it helped me when I got to help people. Two, it helped me grow as a person and as a professional. And here's how it did it. And it can do it for you as well. That kind of goes a long way. When I worked at Job Corps, I was, fresh out of AmeriCorps. I'm excited about, what I was doing. I was an employment specialist. And I reached back right back to AmeriCorps for a program called Power Corps to bring them out to students as the next option when they finished their Job Corps experience. And I remember being excited, promoting Power Corps. And they came for an information session, and one student came, and I was just embarrassed. I was, just kind of disappointed. But a win is a win. We got one student involved with AmeriCorps when they finished. He loved it. His mom was happy. He, finished his AmeriCorps experience, began working full time. Later that year, kept reaching back out to Power Corps. After we did a project for a council member, I had another student who wanted to join Power Corps after she finished. And a little bit easier, we got her in. She loved Power Corps. Then the year went on. I moved on from Job Corps, worked at my new employer. Similar work, just a different program. And we were invited last year to a career fair. And I kept seeing students that I worked with at this career fair. I'm like, what you doing here? What you doing here? What you doing here? And they all, it had to be like 10 to 12 people. And they all were saying, I'm here for Power Corps. And I was just like, Power, but when I left, like Power Corps kind of caught on from those two students who came back for a career panel and just said, like I said earlier, this is what I did when I finished. This is what I got to do. This is how it helped me. This is how it can help you as well. And it was just a really, really, really good moment. Funny story, Philadelphia is a small city. So at my new place of employment, students might know other students. And somehow the message kind of got mixed up to say, Jameer can help you change your life, which was kind of something that I was.
I would say you should put that on a T-shirt. Add it to your LinkedIn bio. That I would claim that strongly.
I would love to, but the thing was, as much as I felt, happy to get that reputation, I made sure to say, again, this is what I did. This is how it helped me. This is what I did helping people. This is how it can help you as well. And it kind of got to, spread that, clear up the rumor that I can change people's lives. So I can't do that. But also just spread that AmeriCorps message. And this was before the referral incentive that, that you can get for referring people to AmeriCorps. So that was just a little really, really, really bright moment for me and also for, students looking for that next step or support with that next step.
That's beautiful, Jameer. It makes me think of my faith tradition. There's a scripture, one man plants, another waters, and the increase comes from above. You never know when you're planting that seed what's going to happen. And it's so wonderful that you're already beginning to see how that's flourishing in so many lives. I wonder when you think about the work that you're doing and the supports that you're providing, what is different about service? As opposed to a job that you could be doing or doing it episodically every, once a week. What is it about that AmeriCorps service that helps the work that you do?
I would say the good thing about service is, so there was a point in time where, young people, or I was young and thought I knew everything and wanted to do things my way and just wanted to, I could see like I could see the end game, I could see that finish line. The good thing about service is someone or a few people or a lot of people will even let you know directly and indirectly that it's bigger than the end game. Like Alexis was saying, it's bigger than reading and math in some cases. We are here to help people. And I got that message a lot of times. People are not going to see what you see in the beginning, in the middle, sometimes not even in the end. But at the end of the day, you're here to help them with whatever help that they're requesting or whatever help that they may not the help that you see that they need, not the help that you think they might need, the help that they need in the immediate, and then over time it might come to a bigger situation that they might have trouble with. But there's always in the midst of all of the work, of all of the, whatever you got to go through, it's always going to be those moments and those periods where you're reminded that you're serving somebody else, even if it's just making a phone call, helping with the FAFSA form, helping with the job application, helping with, just getting them something to eat. You're always going to be reminded that, you're here to help somebody, you're serving people.
Service is the rent we pay for living on Earth. So, we talk a lot about the selfless part of service, but what we're promoting at AmeriCorps is it's okay that service can be selfish too. And more we're seeing service becoming a career pathway where it's obviously helping people pay off their student loans, student loan forbearance, giving you a little money in your pocket. So we've got to get to that 250,000 mentors and coaches and student supports. So what would you both say to those that are still on the fence and are thinking about serving with AmeriCorps or becoming a part of National Partnership for Student Success? What would you say to someone who is thinking about serving? Alexis?
I love that question. I share with folks often when trying to evangelize them to the path of service because there's a lot of reason, as with anything in life, there's a lot of reasons to say no. And it's for any opportunity that you're facing, you can lean into that any day. That's the easy stuff. But I really push folks to pause and say, but what would need to be true for me to take advantage of an opportunity like this? And also reminding folks that I believe, both as an AmeriCorps alum, as someone in leadership at an organization that's fueled by AmeriCorps service, is are AmeriCorps members of service to our mission? Yes, but I believe as an alum and as an organization, we need to be of service to our core members as well. I'm where I am with my career and the gains that I've made because of folks that were committed to not only making sure my service was successful in support of our service, but how can they support me as someone who is giving my 1,700 hours and change? It's reminding folks that it's okay. I think in the nonprofit space, mission-oriented work, it can feel sometimes icky to make it transactional and to say what's in it for me. How can service benefit me beyond my Ed Award, beyond my, any perks that each random organization and state has. It's kind of taboo. We're like, oh, we don't want to talk about that. But I really like to hold space and conversation for folks to say how can your service year work for you? What are you looking for? What connections can you make? How can you hold your organization and those who are serving with you accountable to support life after AmeriCorps? A lot of people, I think, refer to AmeriCorps as a gap year. And I like to challenge that and say, for me, it was a bridge or a launching pad. It's a really key, pivotal moment for me that unlocked all sorts of doors and opportunities for me to be able to do the work that I do today. And I consider it as alum, to folks in this room, even if you're not an alum, it's how are you serving your core members? How are you creating pathways? And it can be, sometimes it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It's not about robust, programming and PD and all those things. Those are really important, but it's also how can if I look at even our cohort at Reading Partners, if I'm mentoring an AmeriCorps member for a year, what is your goal? If you're not doing a second year of service, which is, we start there, but, what is your goal post-service and how can I support you with that? And is that connecting you to people? Is that supporting you? Is it reading cover letters and resumes? Is it helping source jobs for you? Is it talking through, doing interview prep? Is it making connections where I'm not able to connect? And I think that level of intentionality is critical, and it's empowering AmeriCorps alum and organizations that utilize AmeriCorps members to really take that up. I consider that a responsibility and to take that seriously, not as just an afterthought of let's sprinkle in PD, towards the end of the service year in May. What does a real steadfast commitment to our core members' life after service look like? And then also, how do we empower potential AmeriCorps members how can we kind of shift that narrative and hold two truths at once of both service is all the things that we're talking about and that we'll hear about today and that we have heard about, but also here's what it is for you. Here's how you can talk about it in a way of here's how this can propel your career. Here's how this can, whether that's in education, in the field you're serving, and I think also it's critical we're reminding folks that I think there's a misconception that where you're serving, you can only really have a direct line to career support if you're, say, for example, my first year of service was directly working with schools in East Harlem and students. A lot of people, generally speaking, transition to being teachers, being in higher education, things like that. I did not want to teach. I went into my service year knowing that, and I had folks that I worked with who still, despite me not wanting to take that kind of stereotypical direct, you served with students directly in a classroom, so you want to be a teacher, let's support you in that. I had folks that are saying, so you want to get into development, you want to fundraise, you want to focus on systems, operations. I was really able to take both of my years of service and the connections that I made within and outside of my organization and really find a career path that was exactly what I wanted, but still in service of students, despite me not directly serving them every day.
I love that. And what we see with AmeriCorps is AmeriCorps recruits and applicants, they vote with their feet. And if your program that's working with AmeriCorps isn't thinking about the member experience, you're going to start having recruitment problems. I think you mentioned PowerCorps PHL in Philly. PowerCorps members each have 3 supports. They have someone that works on social emotional learning with them. They have someone that helps them with emergencies. Mom lost her job. Someone's, dealing with an abuse situation. Someone can help work that out. And then they have someone that does career coaching. And so those things become even more important. So Jameer, take us home. What's your pitch?
Oh man, I think I learned at the AmeriCorps birthday party that Jay Ellis served AmeriCorps. So nothing else you can say. Hey, famous people serve AmeriCorps. I think a long time ago, I'm not sure if this is true, but I heard a rumor that I knew him as the Game of Thrones guy,
Yes.
but I heard he served the
George R.R. Martin is an AmeriCorps Vista alum.
And my mother loves, Game of Thrones. So I'm just like, you might be able to meet him. That's the celebrity part, the marketing or whatever. On the more serious note, AmeriCorps helped me. I didn't even know I was signing up for AmeriCorps when I signed up to work at Youth Build Charter School. And we're going through orientation and they're talking about this and that and then the education award. And I said, okay, I get money at the end of this. Sign me up. And I had a great experience. But I couldn't afford school like a lot of people. And that education award helped pay my tuition. Got to graduate, of course. And then that was the first way it helped me out. Next, after I graduated from university, I was supposed to get a job in China. Didn't get to go to China. I wanted to travel. Didn't get to do it. Wanted to get out of Philadelphia really bad. I grew up in Philadelphia, did everything in Philadelphia, enjoyed it, and which is ready for something new. I applied to work at or serve at College Possible. And I was just checking places on the application, like just send me anywhere. And I got selected to go to Milwaukee. And I didn't, it was a great experience. I love Milwaukee. If if anyone's here from Milwaukee, I love it. When I got there, my friend, I got on the train, got there. They gave me boots. I didn't, they gave me boots, they gave me clothes, everything to help me get on my feet. But then I talked to, one of the recruiters and she said they fought to get me there. They fought to get me to come to Milwaukee. They needed, they saw my resume, they needed somebody to, help out. And I got to help. But more importantly, not more importantly, but more selfishly, I got to meet people who were just as passionate as helping others as I was. Some a little bit more, who also were better than me at the job that we were doing. And I got to grow as a professional, as well as a person as well. So AmeriCorps will help you with whatever you're looking to do. Go to school, pay for school. That was my third one was go to school. So the big thing, or one big thing is that also there's a big network of what they call schools of national service. And these are schools, colleges and universities, I think it might be some tech schools as well, that partner with AmeriCorps, that support AmeriCorps alums specifically. So that's how I got in the school, after I finished, serving. They will, kind of, I don't want to say prefer,
No, that's right. There are more than 300 schools of national service. Dr. King actually just announced a big partnership with SUNY last week, which I hope he'll talk about when you hear from him later.
Thank you. Yep. So a lot of schools that and all over the country as well. So that you can go to, that you can consider, for whatever undergraduate or graduate after you finish your AmeriCorps experience. And then last, if nothing else, if you want to travel, there is an AmeriCorps program all over the country, even I think in Puerto Rico, if I'm not mistaken, and Triple C. If you want to, get some sun while you're helping people, whatever you're looking to do, AmeriCorps will help you, do, as well as, help you meet new people and then ultimately help you grow in your career.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Let's hear for Jameer and Alexis. That's what AmeriCorps looks like. I am now going to turn the program over to another AmeriCorps alum. This is what we do. We put them everywhere, who is a current DCPS teacher, Keisha Harris, who is going to introduce our next conversation. Keisha.
Thank you, Michael, Jameer, and Alexis. My name is Keisha Harris, and I'm a first grade teacher at Lafayette Elementary School here in DC. I too began my career as an AmeriCorps member supporting young people in DC as a student success coach with City Year. It's great to hear stories from other people who served and where their careers have taken them since their year of service. I served in City Year, Washington, DC back in 2009, and then I loved it so much. I came back in 2010, and I was able to serve at the same school. I served at Stanton, which is also here in DC. When I started City Year, I did not intend to be a teacher. I grew up my whole life with educators. My grandfather was a teacher, aunts and uncles are teachers, and I was determined I was going to be something different. I went into the classroom with City Year, and I loved it. I met students that I saw me showing up every day and engaging with them daily. It made such a difference that I changed my mind. I wanted to become a teacher. I wanted to make that impact every day. I wanted to be a safe place that they could go to, somewhere that they could learn from, someone that they could talk to. It was more than just teaching them. I wanted to be able to be their friend, their support. I love that at my school, it goes up to 5th grade. I teach 1st grade. I actually started as a kindergarten teacher. I see my students in the hallway and I get hugs. The 5th graders, they're too cool for it now, but most of them give me hugs and like I'll get a head nod from the 5th graders. And my 1st graders are like, they all know you, you're famous. And I'm like, I'm not famous, but you know, it's great. But with all of that being said, I am grateful for the impact that roles like student success coaches have on both the students that we serve and AmeriCorps members like I was. For the next session, we have a panel of district and higher education leaders who have led cross-sector partnerships to support student success, spotlighting 3 different models of how high-impact student supports have been successfully implemented in communities or regions across the country. And with that, I'm excited to introduce the moderator of our panel, Assistant Secretary for Planning, Evaluation, and Policy Development. At the U.S. Department of Education, Roberto Rodriguez. In his role as Assistant Secretary, Roberto leads the development and review of the department's budget and advises the Secretary on all matters related to policy development, implementation, and review. Roberto's distinguished career in public service includes senior government roles in the White House as Deputy Assistant for Education to President Barack Obama, and in the U.S. Senate as Chief Counsel to the late Senator Edward M. Kennedy. Most recently, Rodriguez served as President and CEO to Teach Plus, where he built an equity-driven teacher leadership movement that engaged thousands of teachers to shape public policy and instructional practice to deliver greater opportunity for students. So with that, I will turn it over.
Thank you so much, Keisha, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you for being with us and for your example in the classroom. I have to say, one of the wonderful things of today's celebration as we think about the National Partnership for Student Success and its opportunity to drive change and opportunity in the lives of our students, we think about the pipeline that we need to build and support for our talented educators to serve and support our students in the classroom. And again, just wonderful seeds that are being planted with the National Partnership for Student Success to that end too. So thank you so much, Keisha. Alexis and Jameer, thank you so much for your examples. Let's give them another round of applause. And, you know, I want to thank so many folks that all of you for making it possible for us to be here today and to celebrate and remark on this great progress. You know, in our careers here at the federal level, there are moments where you're really digging in to meet the moment and working to really craft a response that is an all hands on deck response. And at the federal level, it's about how do you work with partners to try to make that happen. We're so fortunate to have had the president's charge, President Biden's charge, to bring 250,000 additional adults and young people, mentors, students, tutors, student success coaches into our schools. As we were crafting that, we had such great partnership in CEO Smith and his team. So I want to thank you, Michael, for your leadership and ask us to give him another round of applause. AmeriCorps has been so great in this work. So I have the great privilege of facilitating our next conversation, which is really to get beyond some of the celebrations this morning and understand what makes for a great partnership, what makes for this all hands on deck moment, and what has fueled the level of success that we've seen already across the National Partnership for Student Success. So to share some of those insights and experiences and examples, we have three tremendous leaders with us today. I'm going to ask them to join me on stage, please, as I introduce them. We have, as you've heard, our former Secretary of Education under President Obama, our 10th U.S. Secretary of Education, Dr. John King, who is now Chancellor of the State University of New York system. John's leadership has been indispensable in helping to shape American education and higher education here in DC. I was honored to serve alongside him here in the Obama administration, and the people of New York are so fortunate to have him. We have Dr. Louis Farabee, who is our chancellor here of DC Public Schools. Dr. Farabee, thank you for being with us. You know, when I was at Teach Plus, you were such a wonderful partner in Indianapolis in helping to recognize and elevate teacher leadership. Your leadership there, 15-point increase in graduation rates in Indy. And we are so lucky to have you here in the district helping to support our learners. Thank you for being here with us today. And then we have Dr. Rachel Pfeiffer, who is the Executive Director of Academics for Baltimore City Public Schools, working to support the learning and success of our students in the city of Baltimore alongside our friend Sonia Santelises. Thank you so much, Dr. Pfeiffer, for being with us. Please have a seat. I'm going to come join you. We're going to go ahead and get started. So, let's begin. I'm actually going to begin with you, Chancellor Farabee. Ask you a little bit about the work that's underway here in DC Public Schools. You've worked. We've heard of historic new announcement by our mayor, actually, for nearly $40 million around tutoring, multi-year tutoring project here in DC. We know our young people continue to struggle with the effects of the pandemic on lost instructional time. Talk to us a little bit about what the district is doing to support tutoring here for our students, and what is the role that the National Partnership for Student Success is playing in that?
Thank you for that question. Make sure is my microphone on? Okay. Is it on now?
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Thank you for that question. So first of all, it's great to be alongside. It's an honor, Chancellor. Great to see you again. Appreciate the work you're doing, and also Director Pfeiffer. When I think about the work that we are doing in DC Public Schools, you know, there's no magic solution, right? We're in this tremendous recovery process to ensure our students are taking a step forward academically, socially, emotionally as well. And we do that first through our Tier 1 instruction. So we're very fortunate to have educators like Ms. Harris, who you heard from earlier, who are thinking about whatever is possible in the classroom as it relates to what needs to happen for students to succeed accordingly. But we have doubled down on our efforts for intensive tutoring. In DC Public Schools, in DC, we refer to that as high impact tutoring. And we do rely on our educators, but we also rely a lot on our partners to support us to ensure that students are getting that additional time in math and reading. Really also fortunate that we were ahead of the curve around our development for science of reading. We've also done some curriculum work around math as well, as we know that's been a challenge in math. And fortunately, we're really close to where we were pre-pandemic in reading. So we know we have some more work to do with math. But when we think about how do we make the type of progress that we want to achieve happen at an accelerated rate, we know that having that individualized one-to-one or small group tutoring effort is vital to ensuring our students experience success. And so I can't say enough about our Mayor Bowser. As you mentioned, we've had over $35 million invested in high-impact tutoring citywide, which is phenomenal. We have over 70% of our schools in DCPS are implementing our high-impact tutoring efforts. And then we also have 11 priority schools that have a high-impact tutor coordinator. So this individual takes the load off the principal in coordinating the external supports that are coming in and also coordinating the staff that's providing this high impact tutoring as well. So as a result, we served over 7,000 students last year in our high impact tutoring. Again, that's one-to-one, a small group. And what we saw is we were serving the right students, right? So we relied on our multi-tier system of support to identify the students in need. And what we found is that over 80% of the students that were served were students that were identified and at risk. And we also saw that we look at the results of the progress made, they certainly outpaced their peers in academic performance progress last year. So really proud that we have the partners that can help us, but also we've coordinated in a very intentional way for our educators to support our students.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that overview. And so, this is a multi-year effort, I know. Can you share with us a little bit, is there a federal role here? We have here at the department $130 billion put forth through the American Rescue Plan. Has the federal dollars supported that work at all? And where are you aiming to be at the end of this process here? Like, what's success look like for DC?
Our federal dollars were key to ensuring that we had the resources to provide the most intensive level of tutoring. And also improving our Tier 1 instruction. Yeah. And so the ways that we were providing our summer institutes for educators, our science of reading training, we relied a lot on our federal dollars and also through the Office of the State Superintendent of Education, which also received those federal resources.
May be here with us today too.
Yeah, I think Dr. Grant will be joining us, but that office coordinated a lot of those efforts and helped us maximize our resources. And we're still in implementation of our extra dollars right now. So the schools that I mentioned, the coordinators, many of those individuals are supported through federal resources. And we have the investments from Mayor Bowser in the city to support it and also to sustain the work.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Farabee. Appreciate that. Dr. Pfeiffer, let's talk a little bit about Baltimore and what's happening in Baltimore. I mean, I just was so deeply impressed by how quickly the response ramped up at the beginning of the pandemic for our students in the city, right? And there was that kind of roll your sleeves up. How do we get our homes connected that may not be connected? What are the partnerships we need to see with providers around broadband? And of course, now thinking about the people who fuel that recovery. You've focused a lot, in addition to the tutoring work, and talked a bit to Sonia about that too, the mentoring work in Baltimore. Talk to us a little bit about the role that MPSS supports play in systematizing mentoring there in your schools.
Absolutely. One of the things that you reference is we were able to start things quickly in Baltimore because we'd been doing a lot of thinking and planning before the pandemic even started. And so we had been saying for years, every student needs an adult to provide guidance and support. And so, in the midst of COVID coming, we had this opportunity really in the midst of the devastation we were seeing. We had the opportunity to use, ESSER funding, to use Title IV funding, to actually put in place centralized supports for mentoring at the district, to be able to not just get more mentoring happening. We have over 120 mentoring programs that were already up and running in the city, but we didn't have the level of coordination at the district level to really make the matches happen in meaningful ways. And so we're able to staff a team that provides technical assistance, creates professional learning communities for our mentoring organizations. And my favorite part is that they actually consult with schools. So they will sit down with schools and say, what are your priority areas? Which students are you trying to serve and have the greatest need, just like you mentioned, Chancellor Farabee. And then based on that, they say, well, here are some programs that already exist that would help meet that need. And that's just very different than what we were experiencing before. We're mentoring organizations. We're trying to figure out how to navigate bureaucracy and which schools to pick, and principals were getting floods of people who were saying, pick me, I'll help you, but not really able to navigate whether those folks were the right match for them and their students.
Right. And I know there in Baltimore, you are data-driven and data-focused around success. And we know what a difference that social and emotional learning, that connection to students, those relationships, right, that we talked about on our first panel, those matter so greatly. How is that? How is the mentoring supporting your academic recovery in the city?
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you asked about that, because it really has been amazing to see, after a moment where we really did all hold our breath, right, to say what's going to happen. We are seeing gains for our students. We're seeing, when we look at our youngest learners, we're seeing that our kindergartners are outperforming the state in their kind of early literacy testing, or their early literacy testing. I should say, actually, the nation. They're outperforming the nation in terms of what we're seeing there. We're seeing that our first and second grade students have a trajectory that is increasing faster than the rest of the country. And I really do think it's a space where, again, as was mentioned, you bring in additional resources where the groundwork has already been laid, and you really do see that acceleration that we wanted to see for our students. We're seeing the same when in 2019, our proficiency in reading was about 19% for our 3rd through 8th graders in ELA. Not where we wanted to be. Yeah. We saw gains from 21.4% to 26% in 21 to 22. And that trajectory is what we want to continue to see as we move forward.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So, Chancellor King, let's go to you. And, you've been at the helm of so many of these opportunities to meet the moment and drive change. We talked, I heard my friend Michael reference My Brother's Keeper, which you helped to support as we were thinking about that back during the Obama days. I want to talk a little bit about the role that SUNY is playing here. But before we do, just share with the audience here why NPSS, why this initiative in this moment, and why has SUNY chosen to be part of the National Partnership for Student Success?
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to be here and to be back in this room. A few thoughts. One is, our higher ed institutions are citizens of the community, and we look out and we see in our K-12 schools the tremendous impact that COVID had and the disruptions had. We know the students who are significantly behind, disproportionately Black students, Latino students, low-income students, rural students. Those are our future students at all of our institutions, and they're the kids in our community. And so we have a moral responsibility to act with urgency to help meet the moment, to meet those needs. And college students are a tremendous resource because of the relationships they can build with young people, because of the time they can commit to provide the kind of high quality tutoring that NPSS aspires to deliver. There's also an educational mission for us. When I think about even my own experience as an undergraduate, it was the time spent tutoring, working with young people, running summer programs that led me to become a teacher, changed my life, introduced me to issues and challenges that opened my mind and so much enriched my academic experience. And so for us, the opportunity to have our students out in the community supporting young people advances our educational mission. We also hope we'll have more Keishas, right? That some of our students will decide, because of that tutoring experience, to become teachers. We have a national crisis, particularly recruiting teachers for our high needs schools, bilingual educators, educators focused on students with disabilities. And this is an opportunity to create an additional pipeline. So we're really proud to have 14 SUNY campuses that are participating in MPSS, and we are excited to grow that number.
Well, thank you, Chancellor. I will say SUNY was the first higher education system to step up and respond to that charge. As you heard, we now have almost 50 higher education leaders. Again, an all hands on deck moment with our post-secondary system rolling their sleeves up with our K-12 system. What is the role of work study in that space, Chancellor King, and how can that federal investment help support more of our young people in college to be part of the lives of our school-age kids?
Yeah, it's so important, and I really appreciate the leadership, your leadership, and the Biden administration's leadership in making clear that work study can be used for public service. That's important clarity because there are misconceptions in the higher ed community around that. And look, I love that students are able to work in the library, but I also want them to have the opportunity to have impact in communities through service. And I want that to be available to all students. And one of the challenges on campuses is that for students who have to work, sometimes it's a difficult choice where they want to serve, they want to contribute to the community, but they feel like they can't because they need to work. Right. So to be able to solve that for them by making work study available, very powerful. Another piece is, look, we all know high impact tutoring, well-trained tutors, high quality materials with support and supervision can have a huge impact on students' academic performance. We also know there's a lot happening in the United States under the banner of tutoring that is not that. And part of what work study makes possible is systematizing these things, saying, this is your job, you're going to have training, you're going to have supervision, you're going to come regularly. You're not going to say, oh, well, today I don't really feel like going, or, I got to get my fantasy football lineup set up, so I don't know if I can make it. This is to say, this is a responsibility, a commitment you've made. And so work study helps in that way. The other thing I'd say is, for us at SUNY, I think it's helped our institutions get on board more quickly, because we're saying these are resources that are already available to you. Let's focus those resources on this huge community need.
Thank you. We're grateful for SUNY as a model system for our country to learn from in terms of its commitment and responsibility for that type of comprehensive approach. You mentioned the opportunity to systematize, right, and to, as we say here at the department, raise the bar on the quality and intensity of services and supports for our students. That is a critical part of fueling this academic recovery. And again, it is a critical part of the DNA of NPSS. Right? It is why there is a technical assistance hub and a set of national partners that you all have heard about, and many of you have stepped up to support. That is the hub that helps to support the integrity of that mentoring, of that tutoring, of that academic support, coaching. Mentor is one of NPSS's technical assistance partners as part of that hub. Provides districts and youth development organizations support to make sure that those are successful efforts. I'm going to ask you, Dr. Pfeiffer, if you can share a little bit with us about how the technical assistance partnership through MPSS has impacted how you think about mentorship, for instance, in the district.
Absolutely. So Mentor and our local affiliate, Mentor Maryland, DC, was with us from the very beginning, from creating a landscape analysis for us so that we had a better sense of what was happening in our city, connecting us with Fresno and Kansas City, other school districts we learned from, looking at their models to understand how we wanted to build our own. Youth voice is incredibly important to us in Baltimore. We know that it's just best practice for building good things. And so Mentor helped lead focus groups with our young people to understand what they wanted in mentoring programs. So when we actually put together our mentoring office and our mentoring team, it wasn't, it was built out with this expertise and the support that just led to really strong infrastructure for us then to run with it in Baltimore style, right? We always make things our own, but it's so great not to have to reinvent the wheel in doing so.
It's fantastic. Thank you. And then, the tutoring that we heard about that's happening here in the district, the big charge that we have to help support academic recovery here. Can you share, Dr. Farabee, how have the partnerships through NPSS and across the city with other community-based partners, national partners that come in and support high-quality tutoring? As we've said, not all tutoring is created equal here. So, what role have those partners played in the success of your programs?
They played a critical role, and I think Chancellor King hit the nail on the head. It's a great opportunity for members of our community to be a part of the solution, right? But our higher institutions have been lockstep with it. So if you think about a true all hands on deck approach, I can't say enough about the higher ed institutions here. In fact, we have a phenomenal partnership with George Washington University. So I promise you, they're not working on their fantasy football leagues. They are with us, particularly around mathematics. And so what we found is there's a lot of resources in our higher institutions with our college students with helping us take a step forward with mathematics and mathematics tutoring, particularly with our secondary students. Yeah. And so we're really fortunate to have this partnership, and our college students, they want to be trained, they want to understand best practices, and they also are much more, I think, engaged in what it means to be an educator. And my hope is, as we see the results come from academic progress, I'm a story like Keisha. I was a biology major and my parents were educators. They told me don't become an educator, but I volunteered in a local elementary school and I changed my major to elementary education. So my hope is that that also unfolds as we see this, but we know that we've seen progress as a result of the partnerships we made, specifically our math. Every student who received their appropriate dosage from last year in math that was below grade level improved a level in proficiency. And in fact, if we look at our beginning of year assessment data, our math results are much stronger than where we were last year. So we're headed in the right direction. And a lot of that is attributed to the partnerships that we have.
Well, and the proof for you in the district and in Baltimore is the data, right? So I just thank you for continue to bring that forward, right? For being beacons of what's possible here when we double down and deliver that evidence-based support that our young people need around reading and math to be able to ramp up. The academic support coaching and the college coaching that the partners bring through NPSS can be so transformational to helping our young people begin sooner to think about planning for their future, right? Begin sooner to have that conversation around what does post-secondary education look like for me? What's the first step that I need to take? Often that first step is filling out the FAFSA, right? And our administration is doing a lot of work right now in helping to redesign the FAFSA so that that's a more seamless process for our young people and their families. I'm going to ask you, Chancellor King, if you can say a little bit more about SUNY's work and your work around helping our high school students on that path to college. What are you most excited about at SUNY and in New York around helping young people prepare for college and for success?
Yeah, so two things. One, we were very excited recently to announce the launch of a SUNY AmeriCorps FAFSA completion core. And so we'll have college students on 6 of our campuses who will be trained to support prospective students and their families in completing the FAFSA. And so we want to leverage service to smooth the path to college for our students. But second, we also just about a week ago had a FAFSA completion summit with our partners in public higher ed, private higher ed, the state education department, the folks who do financial aid at the state level, HASC. We brought them all together to talk about FAFSA completion because we're nervous, right? That the delay till December and excited about the simplification, but know it will be different and we need to train folks and so forth. And so we brought people together to try to learn from best practices around the country. And we're making the case, and I hope we'll do this in New York, that we should move to a universal FAFSA completion policy, the way that Texas has, California has, Louisiana has. Look, last year in New York, students left $200 million on the table in unclaimed financial aid. And we've got to fix that. And we're going to try and fix that with the FAFSA completion core and with policy change.
That's great. Right. It is this, again, a challenge and an invitation for us to all work together to make sure that our young people have every opportunity they need to be ready to be on that path to college. So, just as we close, I'm going to, again, all of the statistics, all of the data, our reading improvement, our math improvement, the connections to our students in mentoring and supporting their success, the work that we're doing around college access and readiness, the great pipeline of talent from our higher education system coming into our K-12 system. We hope we can keep more of those graduates as educators and leaders in classrooms long term. All of these statistics, all of that work comes back down to lives and learning for students, right? This is why the president put forth this charge for 250,000 more relationships wrapped around our young people to help them succeed. So I just would love to close us out by asking each of you to maybe share a story from how you've seen those relationships, those connections through NPSS make a difference in the life of a learner. And maybe I can start with you, Dr. Pfeiffer.
Sure. Michael mentioned earlier the importance of having an adult who's not your parent, who's involved in your life. And one of our NPSS partners, I mentor, right, who's been involved in Baltimore. Just the story of a young man named Cameron. Cameron is 6'7", right, and gets a lot of questions about whether he plays sports and what he wants to do. But what he loved were his honors classes, and really trying to think through what his college trajectory could be. And he had a mentor named Will. They were matched when Cameron was in 10th grade, and just having that additional adult to be able to say, you know what, don't worry about what everybody else is saying. Don't worry about what everybody else is asking. You are free to be able to create your story for yourself. And they're still connecting, right? And he managed his own journey to college, and again, still sees Will as an ongoing support. When we talk about hope, we know it's not just having a vision for change, but it's having that pathway to get there. And so that's the kind of hope that we hope to see and build over and over in Baltimore for our students as we have these connections develop.
That's great. Thank you. Dr. Farabee.
I could give you so many, so
Sure,
I'll give you two quickly.
Yes.
So I think the intersection of mentoring and tutoring is so lovely to watch and inspiring to watch. And I think about two examples. One, a middle school student in our quest for our students to feel loved, challenged, and prepared. And Sousa Middle School in Southeast DC, and it was great to hear a young person, one of our math tutors from George Washington University, shows up consistently and provides a level of support in mathematics. But just hearing from that young person that I matter, right? I matter. This person is showing up for me week after week, and they're providing me support. They're coming with patience. They're coming with care. And just this sense of importance and value and the way it changed the perspective of that young person, again, is so lovely to watch. And they have a different outlook on life because someone else is invested in me. The second I would say is around confidence. So I think about a high school student, Blue High School, also in Southeast DC. If those of you know DC, you know Southeast DC. We had a student, typical, I've never been good in math, in geometry in high school, struggling. And we have a partner called Raising a Village, right? And so they're truly in this spirit of it takes a village. But the confidence building that came from the support and the gradual improvement, the understanding around the mathematical concepts, and now that young person is thinking about college and potentially a career in math, but also being a math educator, right? And so I think this notion that you have someone that is caring and is a mentor while they're also providing academic support is what we ultimately want to achieve, and it's great for me to watch.
There it is. Thank you.
One quick story and a challenge to the room. So the quick story, I was talking to a student yesterday, Madison, who is at our Upstate Medical Center, one of our 4 medical schools that's in Syracuse, New York. And she's a busy medical student, but she is spending 2 hours twice a week at Rise Above Poverty Reading Clinic in Syracuse, working with second graders to help them improve their reading. And what was so interesting about the conversation was not only the positive impact she's having on the reading skills of the second grader she's working with, but she described it as the most satisfying thing she's doing all week. And her passion, the way that it is inspiring her, motivating her, was really beautiful to see, and we need more of that. And so the challenge I would give to the room is, Michael Smith mentioned we were just at this event with President Clinton celebrating 30 years of AmeriCorps. Amazing impact AmeriCorps has had over these 30 years, but it should be 10 times as big. And I think our collective challenge is how do we go out from here and not just close the gap, those additional tens of thousands of volunteers we need to meet the MPSS goal, but how do we move the national conversation so that AmeriCorps, when we gather here 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, is 10 times as big? What would that mean for the country? What would that mean for our ability to tackle not only the disruption of COVID, but to tackle the reading needs that we see across our school district, tackle the impact of climate change on the country, to tackle the challenge of violence in our communities? And so we all should go out from here, as Michael would say, fired up. There it is.
What a beautiful charge. Thank you, Chancellor King. Right, it's not enough. Let's not stop at 70,000 more to get to our 250,000 goal. Let's go for hundreds of thousands more so that every young person in our schools has the opportunity to be mentored and supported in their learning and development. Thank you, Chancellor King, Dr. Farabee, Dr. Pfeiffer. Thank you for answering the call. Thank you for your leadership in the National Partnership for Student Success. Let's give our panel a round of applause.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much again to Assistant Secretary Rodriguez and our panelists today. I'm Dorothy Jones. I'm the Director of Corporate, State, and Local Partnerships for the National Partnership for Student Success Support Hub, based at the Johns Hopkins University Everyone Graduates Center. As we near the end of the first half of today's event, I'm excited to share with you more information on the National Partnership for Student Success Support Hub and resources that are available to your district, organization, agency as you work to implement, improve, and expand high-impact supports to P-12 students in your communities and your states. The National Partnership for Student Success Support Hub at the Everyone Graduates Center is the nonprofit partner of AmeriCorps and the U.S. Department of Education, supporting implementation of the National Partnership for Student Success. At its core, the Hub works to support practitioners in the field of education, national service, and youth development to expand high-quality programming in tutoring, mentoring, student success coaching, post-secondary transition coaching, and wraparound or integrated student supports at the national, state, and local levels. And we do this by providing that one-on-one, no-cost technical assistance to school, district, nonprofit, and state or local government efforts at the state and local level. We know that pandemic recovery looks different. The needs of your district or organization may not be the needs of someone else's district or organization. And that is why those best-in-class TA providers are here ready to stand and partner with you. So for example, we are supporting a United Way in South Carolina to establish stronger connections with a network of higher education institutions in their region to bring more college students into roles supporting local youth in schools. Our technical assistance leaders at Mentor also supported a school district to identify which types of NPSS aligned supports were the best fit for their students and supported them with planning for a pilot of a mentoring program aligned with research-backed standards in partnership with a local college School of Education. Second, we established a set of voluntary quality standards with input from experts and practitioners, as well as other resources and toolkits to support implementation. We know that these programs, such as tutoring and mentoring, to be really effective, have to follow the evidence, and our voluntary quality standards do just this. They give districts and providers a comprehensive understanding of the tools that they need to implement programs and build upon research. Third, the Hub connects and convenes schools, districts, nonprofits, AmeriCorps programs, intermediaries, institutions of higher education, state and local governments to bolster collaboration through events like this. We know that we work better when we're working towards the same goal. And finally, we're working to increase the number of people ready to serve in NPSS roles by identifying large groups of people, such as college students and retirees, who might be motivated and well-positioned to go into these roles with the right opportunities, training, and ongoing support. We hear from districts and youth-serving organizations that getting folks to do this work is one of the largest challenges that they face. We're working to literally match places that want more volunteers or employees to sources of those volunteers and employees. For example, from local colleges and universities, programs engaging older adults in service, or youth serving organizations seeking partnerships. We partner with these best-in-class organizations to provide that free, tailored technical assistance for each of our 5 NPSS roles. Accelerate in the National Student Support Accelerator for tutoring, Mentor for mentoring, City Year for student success coaching, the National College Attainment Network for post-secondary transition coaching, and Communities in Schools for wraparound or integrated student supports. We've also created widely available resources, such as toolkits and playbooks that have helped student support providers implement high-quality programming. Our next 2 speakers will provide examples of how the NPSS is supporting organizations in this work. First, I'd like to welcome Jeff Cullen with the State University of New York to the stage.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Cullen. I work with Chancellor King at the State University of New York. I am pinch hitting today for my amazing policy colleagues in Albany who did a great, wonderful job spearheading this initiative on behalf of Chancellor King and the SUNY system. As SUNY was starting to survey institutional interest across our system and beginning to shepherd campus leadership throughout the process, the support of the NPSS Hub at Johns Hopkins Everyone Graduate Center was invaluable. For example, the NPSS Hub could share the existing percentage of work-study roles that went to community service positions by campus in both recent years and before the pandemic. This allowed SUNY system administration to be very precise about how far from the necessary 15% an institution was and how many more students they would need to bring on. Additionally, the NPSS shared those specific community-based organizations who were doing work in the area and who are already partnering with the NPSS Hub. We were able to tailor information to our campuses and link them with specific community-based organizations and nonprofits who are actively tutoring and engaging in literacy efforts within their geographic area, and we're opening to partnering with them. This shortcut boosted our campus's efforts since they didn't have to start from scratch to look for partners, and those organizations were likely to have existing partnerships. This provided our campuses with the necessary framework to build on existing infrastructure while adding additional capacity without creating any duplication or redundancies. After we connected our campuses with their local community-based organizations, the NPSS Hub provided wraparound support by hosting webinar demystifying the program, walking through the institution's goals, and answering any lingering questions the campus might have had. Critically, the NPSS Hub provided much needed support during the implementation phase to help campuses work through any last-minute issues. From the perspective of SUNY system administration and our campuses, the NPSS Hub has been an invaluable partner. SUNY has 14 campuses participating in the NPSS and would be happy to discuss our experiences with any other institutions or systems interested in signing up. The resources and expertise at the NPSS Hub can provide the same seamless guidance for your campus, and we're happy to take any questions later on. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Next, I'd like to welcome Shauna Rosenzweig, President of Campfire National and board member of the National After School Association.
Good afternoon. I'm Shauna Rosenzweig, President of Campfire and board member of the National After School Association, along with a few other board members in the room today. And I'm here to tell you about where we've been and what's next with the Youth Development Program and Pathways Working Group. As part of NPSS, we are working to expand efforts quickly but with quality. Starting off, this group of national youth development organizations, networks, and technical assistance providers work together to get quite literally on the same page regarding the strong foundations of youth development programs and practices. Building upon decades of research-informed and field-tested knowledge, nearly 20 organizations contributed to the development of the NPSS Voluntary Quality Standards, emphasizing 18 common elements of quality across our work and also calling out the role-specific attributes for success coaches, tutors, transition coaches, and more. With leadership and facilitation support from the NPSS Hub, shout out to Kate Cochran for her leadership, we've been doing our homework to make sure that these fundamentals are shareable and accessible to an expanding group of adults and near peers that are working directly with young people. For example, over the spring and summer, leaders at the Boys and Girls Club of America, the Y of the USA, Horizons National, Campfire, and more weighed in on the design and content of the OST playbook for high-impact tutoring that was being developed by tutoring TA lead, the National Student Support Accelerator. We are thrilled to celebrate the release of the OST playbook and appreciate both the leadership and well-honed listening skills of Kathy Bendheim, who's in the room, and team at NSSA as they translated the incredible resources for use in the out-of-school time and summer program areas. Over the next 6 months, we'll continue to amplify and cross-pollinate the new guides and playbooks and maximize our own networks to make this training and coaching even more accessible. Together, we represent a network of thousands of affiliates working across the country to support the lives of young people. We also keep doing our homework, creating accessible, shareable resource banks of youth development 101 and role-specific training resources, and exploring what it would take to create a training consortium that helps ensure that these resources are available in an ongoing way. We're also really interested in lifting up work that strengthens professional pathways in youth development, out-of-school time, summer, and more. Like all the NPSS working groups, this group is dedicated to rolling up their sleeves and making it happen. As a matter of fact, we have our kickoff for the next phase of this work at the end of the day today, because as we've heard time and time again this morning, relationships matter. Thank you.
Thanks again, Jeff and Shauna. The NPSS is set up to directly support the work of governor's offices, state education agencies, state service commissions, districts, colleges, and universities, youth development organizations, and others expanding tutoring, mentoring, post-secondary transition coaching, and other NPSS student supports to our P-12 students. On your screen are just ways that we can provide that technical assistance. States, school districts, and youth serving organizations can come to us for matchmaking, and we can support in designing high quality programs. For states, colleges, and universities, we can help leverage the university system to support P-12 student success and provide that individual one-on-one technical assistance support. And you can request technical assistance through the NPSS Hub through our website. Thank you. It's okay if you don't know exactly what you want or you need just yet. The NPSS is here to support you. Now lunch. For folks in the room, box lunches will be available to you just outside the auditorium. So if you go out either of these, it's going to be right around that corner over there. If you have a sticker on your badge indicating a dietary restriction, please head back to the registration table and they'll help you there. Once you grab your lunch, you're welcome to head into the cafeteria for tables. Any of the soft seating along the windows and the lobbies on both sides is available to you, as well as outside, assuming it's not too chilly. There are patio tables out there, but please note you'll have to go back through security to get back into the building. Please plan to wrap up your lunch by 1:45. We want to begin the breakout sessions about 1:50, 1:55. And there are signs indicating the breakout room locations in the printed event agenda, which we also have in the back of the room. And for our live stream viewers, we will return at 1:55 for the breakout panels, engaging college students in high impact student support roles, which will be in this room. Take a break and connect with someone you don't know, get something to eat. I do also want to do just a quick thank you to the sign language interpreters. They've been doing just a great job today. So thank you.
Again, thank you so much for being here for our breakout session, engaging college students in high impact student support roles. If that's not the breakout session you are intending to be in, you are in the wrong room. We have folks outside either door who can help direct you to other rooms. For folks on our live stream, just wanted to note there are 4 other concurrent breakout sessions at the moment. This is the only one being live streamed, so thanks for tuning in. We are excited to have you. I'm Lindsay Teepee. I'm a policy advisor with the Office of Post-Secondary Education here at the Department of Education. I'm really pleased to have the opportunity to support this initiative, working to engage higher education stakeholders like yourselves to advance the National Partnership for Student Success. Our nation's colleges and universities are important partners in the work of combating pandemic-related learning loss. As we heard this morning from John King, as well as our other speakers, we know this issue has a direct impact on institutions of higher education. Our students from our P-12 classrooms are going to be entering their doors every year for the next decade. We know that when students don't have all the resources that they need to succeed in elementary and secondary school, this will have an impact on their college and career readiness. We also know that college-age students are well positioned to work in NPSS-aligned roles as tutors, as mentors, and post-secondary transition coaches. Research has shown the benefits of serving in these near-peer roles, both for them and the P-12 students they work with. The direct impact to their public service is tangible, and for many college students, serving in these roles also is directly connected to their future careers. Having just navigated the transition to higher education themselves, we also know their insight and their inspiration can make a tremendous difference to the P-12 students they work with. And the examples that were shared from our speakers this morning, I think really hone in on the point of exactly what that tangible impact can look like for the college students, for all of our adults in both K-12 systems and in higher ed. And that inspiration just really, I think, carries through to us here at the department as well. Hearing these stories keeps us motivated in this work. That's why earlier this year, NPSS did launch this higher education coalition. We want to challenge colleges and universities to work collaboratively with our elementary and secondary schools to help boost the number of college students serving in these roles. One of the ways we've encouraged colleges and universities to help do this is through using federal work-study dollars to support students in doing this work. But that's just one way institutions can support their students to get involved. We know there are a lot of other initiatives at the state and local level, and colleges and universities are best aware of what is happening organically at the ground level to help get involved with them. And we know our NPSS partners in communities can really help identify those opportunities too for colleges and universities that haven't gotten started yet. We want to make sure that colleges and universities see a role for themselves in this effort. And we really hope that if you're not involved, that we can help you find entry points to get involved. And if you work with colleges and universities at associations and other roles, if they are part of your membership, or if you work at an institution and are just wanting your institution to get involved, please reach out to us and we are happy to find a pathway to get you involved in this work. I want to take a few moments to thank and spotlight each of the campuses who have stepped up in recent months and set goals to either one, increase the percentage of federal work-study funding their institution uses to support college students in NPSS roles, or two, increase the number of college students in NPSS roles through other programs and funding streams. First, thank you so much to the institutions that have joined the coalition in the past month leading up to this summit. Dillard University, the George Washington University, Long Beach City College, Princeton University, Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi, the University of Pennsylvania, and Widener University. We also have university systems that have engaged many of their campuses to join the coalition. In the Connecticut State Colleges and University system, we are excited to welcome Central, Eastern, Southern, and Western CSCU campuses. I'm seeing some folks like fist bumping in the audience. I'm like, yes, thank you. Thank you for being here. We also heard, that the SUNY system is really involved, and we are also very, very, very happy to have the City University of New York system involved as well. Just recently, the Borough of Manhattan Community College, Brooklyn College, College of Staten Island, Hunter College, Lehman College, and Queens College joined the coalition. The strength of systems working together as a part of this initiative is a huge multiplier effect, and we know not every state has that support with huge systems to get involved, but we know the collaboration between individual colleges as well is really important and strong in those states, and find a friend and join with them. So we know the Higher Education Coalition launched with 27 initial campuses in May. With these new commitments, that number has grown to 49, as Assistant Secretary Roberto Rodriguez shared earlier today. We really are grateful for our partners, and we're looking forward to growing this initiative into the next year of this partnership. I will pause there. I know we have a short time amount today, so I want to make sure that we jump right into our panel discussion. So with that, I would like to invite our speakers up to the stage. Each speaker is coming from one of our Higher Education Coalition member institutions, and I'm really excited for them to be able to share more of what this work looks like on their campuses. I'm going to transition microphones, and we will get started. Oh, not exactly. That's all right. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us here today. I'm so excited to have each and every one of you on the stage. I know during our prep call, we had a lot of content we wanted to get through. So to dive right in, I'd love for you each to just introduce yourselves, your institution, and what you do on your campus.
Good morning. No, it's afternoon. Now I've got... Right, and now I've gotten it out of the way. So I'm Amy Cohen. I am the Assistant Vice Provost and Executive Director of the Honey W. Nashman Center for Civic Engagement and Public Service at George Washington University.
Hi, I'm Olivia Edwards. I'm a community engagement specialist at Community College of Philadelphia within our Institute for Community Engagement and Civic Leadership.
Hi, everyone. Lori Henry, and it's my great privilege to serve as the Dean of the Seidel School of Education at Salisbury University on Maryland's Eastern Shore.
Hi, I'm Layla Hussein. I am a senior at George Washington University, and I'm a federal work study tutor with the Math Matters program with the Honey Nashman Center.
Thank you all so much. And as I mentioned, each of their institutions is a member of our Higher Education Coalition. So I'd love to just get us kicked off by asking you each to talk a little bit about how your institution got involved and what the motivation was for really joining the effort that MPSS has kicked off.
I guess when I saw that NPSS existed, I got really excited. I believe, and we believe at GW, like as Chancellor King said earlier, that higher eds are civic institutions in their communities. And we at the Nashman Center and at GW have long had close partnerships with our K-12 schools, both directly through the schools as well as through nonprofit organizations like Reading Partners and others who are working to build academic, civic, and personal success for students. So when I saw NPSS, I saw it as a great opportunity for us to continue to do this work and to continue to grow opportunities, especially for our students and our federal work study students in particular, to be able to continue that partnership and grow it and deepen it.
Yeah, I think for us, when we first learned about the NPSS and the President's Call to Action, we knew pretty much right away that it's something we wanted to be involved in. Our student support program has been around for a while, but like many institutions, it was put on hold during the pandemic. And so I think now being on the other side of that, we really want to get that momentum back and get our program back on its feet. And so I think it just made a lot of sense for us to join the coalition because we see the value in the supports and the resources that are available to us, and also just to have the accountability and challenge to set a goal and work towards it.
So to start answering this question, I want to provide just a little bit of context of Salisbury University. A few years ago, we were designated as a Carnegie Community Engaged campus. And so really community service is in the DNA or the threads that run through our campus community, whether that's a faculty learning community that volunteers time for programming at our local zoo, our outdoor education majors who are out on the shoreline cleaning up trash and making a beautiful area for us along the Chesapeake Bay. So we really do have this commitment to public service on our campus. And we also have an Institute for Public Affairs and Civic Engagement that's headed up by Dr. Sandy Pope, who is a faculty director of that. And he first showed the MPSS information to me, and I got very excited like Amy did. And you know, I've really committed my life to education, to public education, and to making sure that every student had equal opportunity and equal access to higher education. Many of our students struggle financially and have to work at least part-time as they're going through college. And so I saw this as a great opportunity for us to be able to provide some financial support for our students while supporting our network of 40 schools across 7 districts.
Well, I can't speak to why my institution got involved because I was not there when that happened. But I am the student perspective here, so I guess I'll talk about why I got involved. Well, around this year in January, I was looking for federal work study positions because I needed the financial aid and I needed the money. And there were a bunch on the website that they have, and I was looking through them, and this one really caught my eye, Math Matters, being a tutor, because what I want to do in the future is work with kids. So any practice is always welcome. So that's really, it caught my eye, and I applied, and it was a great way to get your community service in as well as get paid. So I applied, and I really liked it the first semester that I did it. So I continued, and here I am today.
Thank you so much, Layla. And I'm going to pick up on something, Amy, that you had said about why your campus got involved and engaged. I think, digging in a little bit deeper to what we all started or what you all started to share, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about who on campus it was important to have bought in order to really make the commitment and focus on this as a strategic priority. Directing it to you, but if others want to jump in afterward, please feel free.
Yeah, we really collaborate across not only our institution, but outside. And I will say, we got started in this work actually from an outside entity. City Tutor DC reached out to us and said, we'd love to see GW continue to do this work through high impact tutoring. And from that outside connection, we really had to immediately pivot internally to talk with our financial aid office and student employment office. And we talked to students about what they would want in a program. And once we began to do that, we learned that students really, and we wanted a deeper training program for our students. We've been doing tutoring for years, but I think we felt the need to raise the bar. And so we reached out to a program on campus called GW Teach, which is an innovative program. It's a minor for undergraduate students. We don't have an undergraduate school of education. So this is a pathway for STEM students to be able to become certified as teachers once they go through a variety of courses with that program and their STEM major. So we reached out to them to partner with us to be the training and curriculum development partners in that program. So we really partnered very closely with them. And also because we are embedded within the DC Public Schools, we reached out to our partners in the Office of Partnerships at DCPS, to the Connected Schools Office, which is DC's Community Schools Office, where we have been partnered for many years, serving in the community schools. And they helped us to identify which schools we would work with so that we could continue to work with schools we have been working with and maintain relationships. So it really was a kind of entire set of reciprocal partnerships that got generated to do this.
That's so great. And I know we heard a little bit about some of the partnerships from the K-12 side earlier this morning. And so, I think that brings me to my next question for you, Olivia. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about what it was like for your institution to really reach out and think about how to engage college students in the P-12 support roles and also find schools that would have them in those roles.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I guess to put a little context to our program, so our Adopt a School program is what we call it, but it's been around at the college for a while. But before the pandemic, it kind of migrated over to my team, which is the Institute for Community Engagement and Civic Leadership. And our mission really is to make a positive difference on social justice issues. So we have a lot of programs within our team, but we also focus on building mutually beneficial community partnerships throughout the city. And so we knew that with the Adopt a School program migrating to us, we really wanted community partnerships to be like a central part of what we do. And so there's a number of ways that has looked, but I'd say, we have a really strong relationship with the School District of Philadelphia, and similar to what Amy just mentioned, they have helped us identify schools with high needs where our students can provide that support. And kind of another layer to that is we have given focus to some of the schools in our direct neighborhood around our college campus. And we really see that as a good example of a mutually beneficial relationship because a lot of those schools have been identified as high need, but also as much as possible, we want to remove barriers for our students so that they can participate in the program. So in addition to being a federal work study position, transportation is also an issue for our students. And so by partnering with the schools near our campus, where students have to come for classes anyway, our hope is that they can walk there and be consistent and follow through with their commitments. And we work with other nonprofits as well to sort of recruit our students to be placed in different roles. So there's some nonprofits that provide virtual tutoring opportunities. I think, again, coming out of the pandemic, students are kind of looking for a diverse array of opportunities, things that they can customize to their schedule, which is attractive to them.
Sorry, I turned off my mic and couldn't find the on switch. Thank you so much, Olivia. It's, interesting to hear about some of the similarities in building off of the relationships that you already had. And speaking of building off of kind of existing frameworks, I'm thinking a little bit, Lori, I know our call to action had urged institutions to leverage existing funding sources, existing programs and infrastructure. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the existing programs that you're working to expand, and also if there's anything new that you're looking to add on, kind of thinking about the additional challenges that the pandemic has posed in terms of learning loss.
Absolutely. So being a school of education and having a really robust network of partner schools, we've been doing this kind of work for decades. Our institution started as a teacher's college way back in 1925. And so we have really deep roots in teacher preparation and really having those strong partnerships with the schools in our region. Back in 1992, we had an endowment come into the School of Education to establish a literacy center. And so Dr. and Mrs. May donated some money to get that tutoring center started on our campus. And it is a very robust tutoring program. Our students who are in our undergrad programs for early childhood and elementary education provide service through tutoring as part of their coursework with one of their courses. So they have a literacy assessment course that meets in the evenings. They learn how to tutor, learn the high impact practices for tutoring specifically in reading and writing. And then they're paired one-on-one with a child from our K-8 partner schools. And the child comes in, the students have about an hour to do their lesson planning, guided and coached by a faculty member. And then they spend about an hour and 15 minutes working one-on-one with that child. We do have them host parent-teacher conferences, so they are working with the parents, helping the parents understand what they can do at home to help support that student when their tutoring ends. And we've been doing this for decades. We have real high impact in changing reading levels and changing achievement for these students. We have many students that come back as college students, and they just talk about what a life-changing moment it was for them to come through our tutoring program. And so that's one of our really robust tutoring options that we have on campus. We can serve about 120 students a year because it is high-intensive tutoring. We have been working with AmeriCorps for more than a decade. In the last 5 years, our students have provided 360,000 public service hours, and they've received over $1.1 million in scholarships for that work. And so again, a lot of opportunities for tutoring through that. And then federal work study, our students have always worked through the America Reads program with our local elementary schools. And so this is a great way to kind of tag on to some of the things that we were already doing, and looking at additional resources for that and being able to support that work. We do have a Educators Rising Collegiate chapter at SU that started a few years ago. And so we now have education majors who are interested in helping with tutoring as well. So we're starting to pilot a project right now with some Saturday tutoring sessions for children in the local area. We also have students that work at our local community centers that are within walking distance to our campus. So it's a good option for those who don't have the transportation. And then recently, Wycomico County Public Schools, which is our largest school partner, received a new grant from the Maryland State Department of Education for the Maryland Tutoring Corps. And so through that project, we will be partnering with the school district to provide tutoring in middle school math. So that's up and coming.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate the variety of initiatives you built on, and the fact that, as you mentioned, within the College of Education and even the different pieces that you've each talked about in your contexts, public service can also be career connected. And I know those are two parallel goals of the Federal Work Study program, allowing students to have a real opportunity to work in their chosen field or develop job-related skills, and also really dig in on community service and how to give back. And just appreciate how the examples you've shared have shown how these roles can serve kind of both of those ends. I'm going to come to you, Layla, in a second. I just want to let everyone know that I'll be coming to the audience next. So please think a little bit if you have any questions while we have this wealth of expertise here. And we'll have a microphone coming around here in just a minute. Layla. You started to talk about this a little bit, how even for you, this has been connected to some of your career goals. I think the other question, as the student voice, as someone who is a current federal work study student, I'm wondering if you can share any recommendations that you would have for us, for campus leaders. How could you be better supported, or what other resources could make this experience more impactful for you and the kids that you've been working with?
Well, the Math Matters program has a really robust support system for its tutors already. We have training sessions every week in which they're led by a professor who was formerly a middle school teacher who taught math. So, really good resource. And I think that has really helped with also facilitating conversations between tutors who have more expertise in tutoring with this program. A big part of the Math Matters tutoring sessions and training sessions is about connecting the tutors with each other so that they will be able to give each other support. But I do think that in order to implement a successful student model for tutoring, we have to understand where a lot of these students are coming from in the beginning of the semester, especially if they're like incoming freshmen. Many of them do want to do community service. They're looking to get involved with their community. But a lot of them are still very new to the world. They have just moved out of, they've just moved out of their hometown. They're coming to live on campus. And a lot of them are federal work study students, so they really do need a job to get their financial aid. And so something that helps them with their community service and their financial aid is, it's something that draws them. And they might not be able to understand exactly the impact that they have until a little bit later on when they've actually met the kids and started tutoring and talking and understanding really what's going on and how the schooling system works and why they actually want to be involved with a program like Math Matters or any other program in the Nashville Center. So in the beginning of the semester, I think it's really important to have adults around who are experienced in this, who, like in the training sessions that Math Matters has a former teacher who can tell you about how to build connections with these kids in the beginning and how to really get involved. And then later kind of pivot those training sessions into being more about an open space for tutors, because we are the ones who are in the schools and we're the ones who are tutoring the children, and we're the ones who are actually actively working with these students. And we do see a lot that we want to change or we want implemented, like our ideas. And I think that's really important for a lot of campus leaders to understand that we really do want to be listened to and respected, and we want our ideas to be, we want people to be open to our ideas, especially if they're implementing change in a way that helps us and the students that we're tutoring. I have a great boss. Shout out to Abby. She listens to all of us, and so yeah, just wanted to give her a shout out. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Layla. I think it's really a great advice for anybody looking to do this work. Federal work study can mean a lot of different things in different campus contexts. And in this area, you're absolutely right. If a freshman is coming to campus, they were just in a 12th grade classroom the year before, and having the appropriate supports to do this work effectively and make the most of those near peer relationships. Absolutely having people who have done this work and have a lot of experience as resources is critical. So glad to see that is happening at the George Washington University. And we're excited that other institutions doing this work have similar models, and their expertise and experience as part of the higher education coalition can, be part of the resource any additional campus joining the coalition would receive. Learn from their experiences. We are certainly constantly learning from our members about what works and what scales. So with that, do we have any questions from the audience? Do we have a microphone available? Okay. I have a lot of questions that I could ask, but I do want to give folks an opportunity to jump in.
There's this narrative in our country that higher ed can't move fast and isn't nimble enough to meet urgent needs. I think the folks represented on stage today tell us that that's probably a bit of a false narrative. So I'm hoping that each of you could speak a little bit more about how are you being nimble to meet the urgent need, particularly when you're competing with giant national fly-by-night organizations seeking precious federal relief dollars. And so I'm curious if you could speak more about what it means to be nimble in the context of higher ed.
I would start by saying part of it is preparation, right? Each of us talked about the wealth of experience that we have in this area. So part of it is to have experience, but the other part is to pay attention to what's happening in the world, and then to take those opportunities and really work with your colleagues and with others to make those things happen. Higher ed's our neighbors. We live in mutually beneficial relationship with our community, we hope. Each of these institutions certainly do. And so we have a responsibility to work closely with our neighbors to make that happen. Individual centers, individual schools have the ability to move more quickly. Resources help. Resources help a lot. The funding that has been available through the ARP money and some through private money that came to our center really allowed us to ramp up and make a change. Without that, it would have been harder. Building on the federal work study resources that we already use.
Yeah, I think just to add on to that, in addition to staying in tune with your schools and checking in with them and seeing what are their actual needs, I think is kind of a little bit to what Layla was touching on, but staying in tune with your students. If they're kind of the core of your program and you're trying to recruit them, well, what are they going to respond to, and so I think that's another aspect of being nimble and, answering the call, is providing them with the support that they need, making sure we're talking to them about, as it was mentioned earlier today, just kind of what are some of the benefits to them of participating in the program. So anyway, I think it's one piece of the bigger picture of how do we actually respond to this.
I think another part of this, in addition to the resources, is just really listening to your partners, your school partners and your community partners, of what their needs are and trying to meet their needs. I think often too times institutes of higher education come at a problem from their own lens, and they see it very differently than the people who are in the classroom or in the community center supporting the students that they're working with. So I would say be really good listeners. And then just kick around some ideas of what might work, and don't be afraid to try something. Try it. If it doesn't work, I think we all know that failure is the best learning tool, right? And just try and try again.
Yeah, I mean, all of this stuff is basically what I was talking about. I do think that, I love all of my students that I work with, and every time that I bring up something that would help me help them, it's coming from a place of, I really do want them to learn and I want them to be successful. And I can see what's happening. I can see what's going on, and because I'm actually there and I know what they need. And listening to us and what your tutors need is really just like the foundation of everything, especially since a lot of us also talk to the teachers, like the teachers who are going in every day and are there 8 hours a day with these students. We do work closely. A lot of the tutors take time out of their sessions to go and talk to the teachers as well. So a lot of us do have this like wealth of knowledge about just individual kids and their needs and just how our schools run. And it's really helpful when like our bosses and our employers are like really attentive and listening and understand that they might not be in the school, and so they might not understand everything that's going on. And so listening to us is like the key component to making all of this work.
Thank you so much. And I feel like
the pieces that you touched on, Layla, as well, talk to, there is, I think, a perception that higher education is not flexible. And I think the relationships that you each touched on show how, those forged connections help institutions become more responsive. It also gets to another, I think, misconception that for many colleges, we think about ivory towers and we think that colleges aren't one with their community. They're separate and apart from them. We close the gates and it's very insular, and colleges don't meet their students until they come to campus. But I think that narrative is not correct and increasingly changing in places where maybe at one time it was. I think colleges and universities are trying to open their doors and branch out and become more engaged through schools of education, through their civic engagement offices, through their public engagement offices, and build out the community development pieces as well. So I'm glad that you've each kind of touched on how dynamic colleges can be for their communities and for their whole regions, depending on the size and the relationships. And it doesn't have to be limited just to a big city like Philadelphia or Washington, D.C. This is true for many of our colleges and universities all across the country. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Here in the back. Oh, one, and then in the back.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Vita with Jumpstart for Young Children. And my question is, how do your institutions engage college students during the summer? Especially we know that summer learning loss is a thing with the students. So how do you engage your college students to have either housing, course credit, so they can properly support the students in the cities that your universities are based in?
I'm happy to start with that one. So post-pandemic, we launched a series of what we call summer enrichment academies at Salisbury University. And through this initiative, we bring K through 12 students to our campus during the summer for 1 or 2 week-long institutions that they do with us. We call it enrichment, even though we are helping to solve some of the learning gaps, but we really want the students to employ those critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills, being innovative and creative in the classroom as well, so they get excited about learning, so it's just not another school day. And then we tap our teacher candidates to work as teaching assistants. And so they're in the classrooms teaching with these students along with faculty members. And we run everything from STEM to philosophy camps, depending on what the students' desires are, needs are. And then we also have, for 2 weeks, we bring about 80 migrant children from the state of Delaware with a partnership with Delaware State Department of Education to our campus for them to be able to experience our campus, because most of them will be first-generation college students who have never stepped foot on a campus before. And that, I think, is probably one of the greatest opportunities that we have for our faculty as well as our teacher candidates who will be working with students like these when they're in the classroom.
For us in the summer, we've, for the last 6 or 7 summers, we've run a program called Civic Changemakers, where we work in 2 or 3 middle schools with a problem solving, a community engagement, service learning program. So what we last summer had 75 college students, and in the past have had different numbers, but bringing those college students in to learn how to facilitate a service learning curriculum with young people where they're really getting the opportunity to identify both assets and issues in their community and then come up with a solution. So for example, one group saw a broken gate in their school and it made them feel unsafe. And so they worked with their facilities people on their campus, as well as writing a letter to Chancellor Farabee to ask them to fix that gate on their campus. They've created career days. They've done a variety of other kinds of things, including doing anti-gun violence work, which is recognized by some of the peace organizations in DC. So we've been able to do those kinds of summer programs. I will say a barrier is that our institution doesn't have federal work study in the summertime, so that it is difficult to find housing and funding to support them to do that. In addition, Vita, we also have Jumpstart students who are part-time AmeriCorps members, some of whom work with the DC Jumpstart Community Corps. So we really promote a wide variety of both internships and service opportunities for our students in the summer.
Yeah, I didn't do civic change makers, but I have a bunch of tutor friends who did. Um, and I mean, just from the perspective of being a tutor in the school year, a lot of these students come back during the school year, and they can see the same people who were leaders in their civic change maker, program. And so a lot of them are much more open to learning really boring stuff like math, because they're like, oh, you work with Abby who did civic change makers with me over the summer. So like these are really important. They're like interconnected, building relationships with these kids, and understanding that like we're all one community, we're all based in one community, and we're all trying to help each other. That's what's really important. And so these summer programs, I think, even as someone who didn't do a summer program, it's helped me with my students a lot.
Yeah, I think for us, so our school year, our semester ends before the actual academic year ends for our K through 12 partners. So as much as possible, we try to encourage our students to continue on even into the beginning of a college student's summer. But once the school year ends, we don't have as much programming running through the summer. We do have some nonprofit partners of ours that offer some opportunities to students to engage with, during the summer. But I'd say that during the summer, we more so start ramping up our recruitment season, and we have found that we're a little more successful when we start that early, on the earlier side. As we all know, there's background clearance process. So we've also held different info sessions during the summer, just to get students to start thinking about how they want to get involved, and kind of just to get a jump start on that for the fall semester.
Hi, everybody. My name is Will Brummett. I'm with Campus Compact, and I also, full disclosure, used to work with Amy in the National Center. So I'm curious. I'm sort of want to look beyond the goal of even 2025 and 250,000. I want to sort of offer you each a chance to speak to what resources, opportunities, skill sets for other coalitions would you all need for 15% federal work study active in the community to be the floor and not the ceiling for what you go? You mentioned a little bit federal work study limitations by law around not having federal work study in the summer, other things. I'm just wanting, we're in this space with coalition, a lot of possibilities. I'm wondering long term, what would you see, would each of your institutions, or Layla, what do you feel like students would need to get 50% of your peers involved in this going forward?
I mean, I can start off. Well, so I was part of recruitment this year to recruit to Math Matters as tutors. And a lot of what drew kids to working in a professional setting was the fact that there is going to be, you can get credit for this. You can get credit, you can take the class. The training sessions are also classes that you can take, and it's a super easy A. So, that really helped with the recruitment process. They were like, ooh, bump in my GPA. So that was a big draw. And then on top of that, the fact that it was federal work study was really, really big incentive for a lot of kids. And on top of that, I am pre-med. And so a really big part of being pre-med and applying to med school is the volunteer portion. You have to have a lot of volunteer work. And for a bunch of pre-med students, they're always looking for a volunteer option. They're fiending for one. So anything that they can get their hands on, they will do it. And that is a really big part of understanding recruitment. We can branch out of just education as well. I am not going to be a teacher when I graduate. I'm not that. I've never majored in education. That is not my field of interest at all. But I love doing tutoring and Math Matters because it does provide a specific skill set for me personally, which is when you talk to a student and when they're telling you their problems about, this is the problems that I have with math, and I don't understand this at all. it's a lot like diagnosing a patient. You have to listen to what they're saying and then figure out what's wrong, what the root cause is, and then find the best treatment plan for that. And so it really builds a lot of skills, especially when I want to work with children in the future and be a doctor to children. Understanding and listening to what kids want and how they talk and how they tell you your problems is a really big part of many people's fields. I mean, people who want to work with children and don't want to be educators, like me, these are really big parts of our field. And so I think a really big part of getting students on college campuses involved, especially with tutoring, is just appealing to what they want, what their interests are, and finding the specific niche of this will build this skill for you. And also you will get a GPA bump if you do this.
I think for me at Salisbury University, we're in a very rural area and we don't have a lot of public transportation. So transportation is always a challenge. We do have a few schools and community centers that are, walkable from our campus, but to get our students out to probably the schools that have the most need, it's a real challenge for us. And so I would say resources to provide transportation and additional work-study dollars so we can have more students qualify.
I think for us, I would love to see just a larger, just more messaging around federal work study at our institution. There are a lot of federal work study positions at the college, not just what we offer. But I know in being, on campus, talking to students about how they can work with younger students with reading or math, and then talking about federal work study, they're instantly like, oh, wow, I'm really interested in this. And so I think it showed me that there's an interest, but it's just how are we getting that message across in a bigger campaign or a bigger push for that? I think that would really expand, the number of students that we're able to place in those types of roles.
Yes, and yes to all these. And I think at the policy level, it would be really helpful. I think a lot of colleges don't realize that there is a 7% requirement for community service, and I think it's really important to make that clear. And frankly, I think we should have a higher percentage requirement for community service. 15% would be nice. I know that's a difficult sell, but I think it's very important. I also think it's important to talk about all of the things that were just said here. What are the benefits for students? What are the benefits for communities of this federal work study workforce? I did a quick crib earlier today, and there are 600,000 federal work study students every year. That $1 billion that the U.S. Department of Education provides for this is 600,000 people. And if only 15% are doing community service, that's a lot, but it's not enough. And we could be doing so much more. And I think it's important for communities to understand how powerful the relationships that Layla describes and the skills that can be learned from this are really, really important. There was one more thing I was going to say about this. Oh, and I think it's really important that that set aside not be any job. I think it's really important that it's service and that it's because we are civic institutions, and part of what we are building is we're not just educating people to become a profession, we're educating them to become civic professionals with a wider set of skill sets, and that service is so important for that. So just a few things.
Amy, thank you so much for tying that together. You took the words right out of my mouth, and I appreciate it because I think, the point that you're raising here of connecting this work to the mission of the institution is so critical. And the fact that, again, public service and career learning can go hand in hand. And Layla, I think you did such a beautiful job of illustrating that, working with children as a doctor, working with children as a tutor develops those skills. And I often joke to my colleagues, I started my career as an elementary school teacher, and those are skills I still use every day with adults. But, it's thinking about that time in the classroom, the adults and caring professionals that were in my room, particularly near peers, college students, there is the actual work that they are doing to help students with reading and math, doing read alouds, working through problem sets, going through long division. And then there's the inspiration of just every day interacting with someone who looks like them, came from their community, is somebody that maybe was at the school in previous years as a 12th grader, who is coming back and saying, I'm studying to be a doctor, I'm studying to be an engineer, and the possibilities that that can open for students are just tremendous. So I really appreciate how all of those points build together to show, the power of federal work study is one way we can build out those opportunities for college students and K-12 students to be connecting. I also appreciate all of the other programs and supports and infrastructure you all have raised that complement it, because even 600,000 isn't enough. So finding these other ways to scale these roles, and I think as we spoke to this morning, having other caring adults beyond our college students also engaged in this work becomes really critical. Do we have time for one more question? Okay. Do we have one more question?
Hi, I'm Lindsay Wood Jeffries with Higher Achievement Mentoring Program, Baltimore, DC, Richmond. And I wanted to better understand this. I don't know enough about federal work study, so I feel a little bit out of my depth, but that 7% requirement, how is that set? How would we advocate to increase it? Please demystify.
I'm happy to jump in, and others who have experience implementing can maybe chime on. At the department, we are implementing the Higher Education Act. So a lot of the requirements around federal work study are set in statute. So the 7% requirement for federal work study dollars to be used for public service is a statutory requirement, as are some of the pieces that were mentioned earlier about whether federal work study dollars can support students during the summer. We do as much as we can within the bounds that we're given, and we try to build in flexibility, and we're very open to feedback from the community about other priorities. I think, potentially encouraging, as we have institutions, to use more than 7% toward public service, in particular for these NPSS aligned roles, is something that we are doing. But I think folks can reach out to their members of Congress, folks can reach out to their constituents and just tell them what their experience has been. And, that's what folks do with us. And so I think everyone in DC is just eager to hear what's working. And I think that policy works best when there is a feedback loop between practitioners and people making decisions in DC. So we're grateful we have so many partners that are close, and also so many partners across the country who are invested in helping us continue to iterate and make federal work study as beneficial as it can be.
This happened, the 7% set aside happened in the mid 1990s. And it was supposed to go up incrementally every year when that happened, but it never did. And I think it's important for nonprofits like yours to talk about the benefits that you get from partnering with institutions, with higher ed institutions in your communities, to be able to say that it meets your mission, it builds things out, and it creates the benefits that we've talked about today. It's a super important piece of the work that we need to do.
All right. Well, I am going to go ahead and ask one last question, moderator's privilege, to everyone up here. For our lightning rounds before we get into our turn and talk exercise, can you each share some advice that you might have for other institutions aspiring to get involved in either the coalition or, broadly speaking, getting more students to partner with K-12 institutions to do some of these MPSS roles?
I can start. I would say that I think it's really important for us to show students that there's a place for them, regardless of what they might be studying. I think that's kind of been an ongoing theme in some of what things that we've said, but it is, I think the beauty of these student support programs is that students across all types of academic disciplines join in. And of course, we would love to see students, want to become a teacher and go into education for their career. But I think, talking about, what's in it for them as a student, not just federal work study, but letters of recommendation or volunteer service awards. So I think there's a lot of ways that we can frame the conversation and help students realize that they can make an impact and that they are needed as well.
I'm going to go from the student level all the way up to the consortium level. I mean, I think there's a lot of organizations that are doing this and are telling the story. So Campus Compact is one of them. APLU is another. Community colleges network. So all the networks of higher education have told this story in the past and do tell this story now. And I think it's really important to talk to your national organization about doing this and to talk to your disciplinary association, if you're a faculty member, about the ways in which these kinds of things build students' skills and build community engagement skills. So I guess I would say just build consortia and tell your story.
So I would suggest thinking out of the box. Don't do things the way you've always done them. I mentioned that transportation is a challenge, so I'm hoping that we'll be able to offer a general education course on site at one of our local high schools that will get our college campus, our college students into that high school campus and give them that access that we really need for students to be able to feel comfortable going back to a high school and helping with the tutoring.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to be the last one to speak. And I just want to use the times to say that I honestly feel like a conduit for my students when I'm up here. A lot of what I say and what I do is what I see from them. And it's a really big reason why I agreed to do a panel with you guys. I feel like advocating for my students and for them is one of the biggest parts of why I chose to still be a math tutor, even with a really, really busy schedule. And that's the thing that I think everyone really needs to understand, that once you start this work, it's really hard to quit. It's addictive because you just really fall in love with helping your students, and you start really caring about your students. And that's, I think the focus should really be on them. We are helping a community of kids who have been extremely underserved. They were really, really affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. And even before that, I mean, these were systemic issues that were only highlighted by COVID-19. And that's really the most important part, that once you get started with this stuff, you really start caring about the people involved. And I wish I could have one of my students come up here and talk about their experiences and why they love Math Matters, or why they love to be tutored by, not just me, but other tutors as well. Because I think that's they are the most important voice in this campaign, in these types of programs. And I think for a long time they have been very voiceless, and college students have become kind of their way of telling higher institutions that this is what we need and this is why we need it. So please do it for us. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Layla. That was the perfect last word. All right. With that, I will let you all exit the stage, and I would like us to take a moment to thank our panelists.
Hi, everyone. Let's go ahead and take our seats, settle back in.
I will make this quick and painless for you. I hope that you've had a really incredible day full of inspiration and connection. And if you still have not exchanged, physical or virtual cards with someone, there's still time to do that. So please make sure that you do. As you probably learned and know, there are so many inputs that have to combine to get the outcomes that we all desire and the outcomes that our students deserve. And to that end, I will just say that the leadership here at the Department of Education has just been a really critical engine in getting this work moving and making sure that it's really meaningful. And at the beginning of the day, we heard from Secretary Cardona, who provided some really stirring remarks based on his personal experience and what he's seen around the country. And we also have someone very special here to close us out on a strong note. And so I'd like to welcome to the stage my boss and our Deputy Secretary, Cindy Marten.
She's actually the boss, if you want to think about it. Or people know wherever I go, when the kids walk in, I say, everybody quiet, the bosses are here. Because who do we really work for? The students. So that's the real boss. You had the big boss, you had the secretary, she called me. We know who we work for. And I just want to say, the best day, the hardest day in school is usually was Halloween, the kids with the costumes on Halloween. The day after Halloween's really hard too. We had second graders here yesterday, and so Secretary Cardona and I got to read them stories and do activities, and it was fabulous. I'm wearing orange, and I still love Halloween, so it's like the day after Halloween color. So it was great to have students in the building and always remember truly who we work for and why we do the work. And for me to be able to serve in this capacity is a high honor in my 34th year in education. 17 of those years I spent in a classroom teaching students, teaching kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and then 10 years as an elementary principal in San Diego with a school that was 100% Title I, 85% English learners. Every single risk factor known to education existed on that campus. And I was there for 10 years before becoming superintendent in San Diego. I say that to say the Secretary Cardona and I bring our practitioner teacher's heart to the work that we do every single day. We've led the work, we've done the work, we've taught students in classrooms, we've led large systems and small systems, and we understand the importance of partnership. We understand the importance of this ecosystem that has been built through this national partnership in a place where you come together and you learn from one another. Your struggles, your successes, your challenges, your hopes, the things that work, the things that don't work, but that's what happens in an ecosystem that's built together with intentional collaboration, as you heard our secretary talk about this morning. That's why it is such an honor to do the work, to watch people come together and learn from one another. We do it alone and it's good. When we do it together, it's the best. And then we learn from one another and we have an exponential deliverable and key concrete things that happen to change outcomes for students in ways that are actually seen and measurable in big, big ways. So knowing that I say I have deep gratitude, I start November as my gratitude month. If you ever heard me give a speech before, I talk about my daily gratitude practice. Every single day, I find something to be grateful for. I do it in the form of photography. But for November, I double down on it because it's the beginning of gratitude month. So know that my gratitude for what you do every single day really is making a difference. So we have the champions, we have AmeriCorps. Are we going to do the clap for each one? I heard that this morning. Every time we say somebody, get another clap. But all of the champions, the MPSS hub, that actually creates this whole ecosystem, allowing it to work. So then we get the leaders and the tutors and the mentors and the success coaches and the post-secondary transition coaches. All of these are critical people-powered roles that make this actually work. So I bring this lifelong experience as an educator to this, and then I get so inspired when I hear the individual stories that roll up to a collective story that answers the president's call. What you're doing is enabling what we call the optimal outcomes for our students. And it's really focused on our historically underrepresented students. We're building bridges in underserved communities, and these are bridges that last for a long time. It's not for a moment. It's not for the short term, and it's not by accident. It's by design through intentional collaboration. What you're doing is essential work. You're informing, you're inspiring, you're connecting people and organizations with the passion that they have for their communities. And it's with the singular focus of our students' best interest in mind and giving them the supports that they need, when they need it, in the way that they need it, and where they need it. And whether that's you're an organization that's all about providing the tutors, maybe that's your goal. Maybe you're bringing in the mentors, you're bringing health services into the school building where they need it. You are making sure the needs of the whole child are truly met by design, community by community. And my favorite thing that President Biden says whenever he gives a speech, almost every time, it inspires me every time. He always says, there is nothing we can't do when we do it together, because America is about one thing. You know how he gets like a softer voice? We're about one thing. It's possibility. That's what we do. We can do this. So today, what we were able to hear is we were able to hear the impact of all of the commitments across the school districts, all of the community partners, higher ed stepping up in such a big way. Together, and with the help of the American Rescue Plan, we have fueled and estimated, as you've already heard, the big number, 187,000 people-powered supports into our schools across the country. That's representing enormous progress towards the big goal of 250,000. And I know we're overachievers. We're going to go beyond that. Just let it be known here that's going to happen. Because even that number, this is going to get there by 2025. It doesn't even count the additional high impact work that's taking place to support young people in community-based settings across and outside of schools. So I want to say I'm heartened by the progress as I get the regular reports of the people who are in this room, of the people joining us online, and yet we know there's still more work to be done. We have to ensure that every student does have the support that they need to succeed and to thrive, and we have to continue with a laser focus on several things. Recruit more college students to serve in high impact roles in pre-K to 12th grade schools and out of school time programs. More. You heard the secretary this morning say we need more. What is it like for a student who's a middle schooler to meet with a college student who that's what I want to do someday? We need more of the college students being those mentors. We need to also engage and support more older adults and retirees that can be of service and join. I see my friends over there. You got it. You know, you're bringing it there. We also have to create more opportunities for high school students and the recent graduates to support the younger students in near peer tutoring. There's nothing like a high school student coming up with a kindergartner and hanging out and helping them, tutor them, mentor them, and show them what their future could be like. And then that gives them really good experience. They might decide they might become a teacher, which helps us with our teacher pipeline goals. And we need to forge strong partnerships between the schools, the youth serving organizations, because these need to be evidence-based and they need to be innovation-focused. It's not just partnership to partner. We don't partner for partner's sake. We use evidence-based, we use research, and we have innovation inside of it so they commit to the transformative work of putting students and families and communities at the center of what we do. And finally, we have to create more opportunities for people that are serving in the NPSS roles, like AmeriCorps members, employees, or volunteers, so they can develop educators and youth development professionals through meaningful training and support, and they get that great professional development. So if we're going to do this, which I know we will, we'll answer the president's call and we'll get support doing this critical work. If you want to get more help to support the work, go to our www.partnershipstudentsuccess.org to see how we can get more help in supporting this critical work that we're doing. I have to take the opportunity also to reinforce what President Biden and Secretary Cardona have been elevating for some time now. And I hope within all that you've heard today, that this grounds you as you leave today, which is true. We, the American people, have a once in a generation opportunity. Right now, this is our once in a generation opportunity to redesign education for every student, once and for all. This is our opportunity to do that, to make our schools the hub of the communities and to address the needs of the whole child. We have to bring in key services into the school buildings. Go to where our students are. Provide the high quality summer learning and the after school programs that our students deserve, because it works for some kids. Some kids are getting this some days in some places, but not yet everywhere. It's why we have increased federal funding for community schools 5-fold. And through you can clap for that. You love that. Fivefold. This is not a little bit. And then we have the Bipartisan Safer Community Act, where we're investing $1 billion in increasing the number of school mental health professionals. This is what we mean by investment. We're not buying our way out of the pandemic. We are investing with real dollars and real supports. And together we've done so much, and I know we can do so much more. So I just need to thank every single one of you for your resilience, your unwavering dedication against hard headwinds that make this very challenging work, but you are doing what our country needs. You are giving students the supports that they need in school and out of school. And some are learning programs within the communities that you serve. I can tell you as an inner city principal for 10 years, trying to get support from my students, where support would come in and they'd try to do a little something and then they'd leave and they didn't really do much of anything. When you get this support right, and you're working with the schools and the communities and you're asking teachers and principals, what do you most need now? And you get into real meaningful partnership, you get outcomes and you get them in a synergistic way and you deliver. So let's keep doing this work. Let's keep doing it together. Keep our eye on the target, keep our hearts with our students, the bosses, the ones we work for, and keep our unwavering commitment to be able to provide the supports that build the world-class education system that our students deserve. I believe in the hope and the promise of education in our country as the foundation of our democracy, and I believe when we do this together, we get outcomes like we've never seen before. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. This concludes our event. It was wonderful to have you with us. Have an excellent day.